Chapter 965. The more Gunyanji thought about it, the more upset she became. She threw her phone on the floor and impulsively threw off her blankets to get out of bed. She ran out of her bedroom barefooted and ran down the hallway, looking at the tightly shut doors. She didn't know which room was Huaxiaoheng's. On the other side, Qinlai struggled with himself. He kept wondering if he should confess and be lenient. Confess, go to jail, resist, and go home for the new year. Just as he was thinking about it, he suddenly heard a deafening crash from the phone. It sounded like something heavy had fallen to the ground. Qinlai jumped up from his bed in fright. His fat body almost collapsed the bed. Nianji? Nianji? Don't do anything stupid? There was no response from the other side. The call had already been disconnected. Qinlai was panicking. Could it be that the girl had taken things too hard and really committed suicide by jumping off a building? Thinking about how Gunyanji had cried over the phone and wanted to jump from the 24th floor, his head was about to explode. Qinlai felt that his death was near. He didn't dare to play around with Gunyanji's life. He didn't waste a second to overcome Huaxiaoheng's threat and call Huaxiaoheng's number. Huaxiaoheng had already fallen asleep, but he wasn't sound asleep. Suddenly his phone rang. He took it to see it was Qinlai's number. He answered the call and said sleepily, "Qinlai, Happy New Year." Qinlai was about to cry and stomped his feet in his bedroom. "Huaxiao, where are you? Do you know where Nianji is?" "She just jumped off a building." "What?" Huaxiaoheng sat up straight. "Qinlai, have you gone crazy? I'll shoot you if you keep spouting nonsense." "Huaxiao, if Nianji really did jump off a building, you don't have to shoot me. I'll shoot myself. I mean what I say." Qinlai was already crying. "It's all my fault. I accidentally mentioned that she was infected with H3AB7 a year and a half ago when I was on the phone. I blurted it out and told her that she had sex with someone to get the antidote." Huaxiaoheng threw off the blankets and got up from the bed with a livid expression. He rushed to the door with his phone in hand and gritted his teeth at Qinlai. "Qinlai, don't forget you gave me a military order." "I know. I wouldn't have told you if it wasn't an emergency," Qinlai said shamelessly. "And I didn't violate the military order. I didn't tell her it was you. Nianji thought she had done it with someone else, so she couldn't accept it and felt sorry for you. She said she wanted to jump from the 24th floor. Then I heard a loud noise. Song Jinning's apartment was on the 24th floor. Huaxiaoheng's ears buzzed. He had no idea what he was thinking. His mind was blank. Almost mechanically, he rushed to the door and yanked it open. His strength was too great and he was in a trance, so he actually pulled the door handle off. The corridor in front of the door was lit with a warm yellow light, and a girl wearing a black military cotton long t-shirt was walking back and forth in the corridor. When she heard the sound of the door opening, she turned around abruptly. Her flawless skin was like a translucent lychee jelly under the light. There was a hint of pink in her fair skin, and there was moisture in her luster. The long black t-shirt was loosely draped over her body. He could vaguely see her shapely breasts, her slender waist, and her long snow-white legs. It made his throat tighten. She stood in the middle of the corridor and stared at him in a daze. The expression on her face was a mixture of sadness and joy. She was like a traveler who had traveled for thousands of years and finally found a ferry across the river. She was so beautiful that she didn't seem real. It seemed like she could fly away with the wind at any moment. She couldn't have really jumped off the building, could she? It couldn't be her soul, could it? At that moment, Huaxiaoheng, who had never believed in ghosts or gods, suddenly had some strange thoughts. He felt the blood in his veins rush up, and his eardrums vibrated violently. His gaze fell on Gunyanji and was almost glued to her. He couldn't tear his eyes away. Gunyanji turned around and found Huaxiaoheng, whom she had been looking for, standing at the door of a room. His gaze was glued to her. "Huaxiao!" Gunyanji called out to him and ran into his arms. She hung on his neck and cried like a child. Huaxiaoheng reflexively scooped her up with one arm. Her slender body was still warm from the quilt. Hugging her in his arms, she felt strangely warm and soft. Huaxiaoheng lowered his head and kissed her face. "Nianji? What's wrong?" Qinlai first heard Gunyanji call him Huaxiao in a sweet voice. Then he heard Huaxiaoheng call her Nianji in a gentle tone that he had never used before. The public display of affection caught Qinlai off guard. He felt like his heart was being stabbed by a knife and pierced by thousands of arrows. Gunyanji was fine and hadn't jumped off the building. He should be relieved that he didn't have to die. But when he turned around, he felt that his next fate was probably worse than death. Qinlai sat on the floor woodenly. He hung up the phone and hugged his head. He began to think about where he should go to escape. Gu Nianji raised her tearful face and stood on tiptoe to kiss Hua Xiaoheng's lips. She kissed him so eagerly and actively that Hua Xiaoheng almost felt flattered. Hua Xiaoheng wouldn't be Hua Xiaoheng if he didn't take advantage of this opportunity. He closed the door behind him and used his left hand to support Gu Nianji's butt. He carried her into his bedroom and placed her on the bed. Gu Nianji held onto him tightly and wouldn't let him go. Hua Xiaoheng kissed her deeply over and over again and mumbled, "Little darling, don't rush. I'll give it to you right away." Gu Nianji's heart trembled. It was as if something in her mind had broken through the floodgates of her memories. But Hua Xiaoheng's kiss had already shifted positions. Not long after, she lost her soul and quickly died a little. She panted heavily and rubbed Hua Xiaoheng's injured arm with one hand. She murmured, "Let me do it." Hua Xiaoheng couldn't have asked for more. He turned over to lie on the bed and helped Gu Nianji sit on top of him. After it was over, Gu Nianji couldn't even straighten her back. She lay on Hua Xiaoheng's body like a puddle of spring water. Hua Xiaoheng was in a rare state of complete emptiness. He had always been forceful and domineering when it came to these kinds of things. Occasionally he would let Gu Nianji take the initiative. But there had never been a time when he felt as good as this time. It was so good that he completely understood what it meant to have tendons and bones ripple. He was enveloped from head to toe by the lingering aftertaste of the explosion. He thought that even if he didn't taste flesh for 3 months, he would still have endless aftertastes. Gu Nianji leaned into Hua Xiaoheng's arms and gently stroked his injured arm. She asked in a hoarse voice, "Did I hurt your arm just now?" Hua Xiaoheng returned to his senses and lowered his head to kiss her forehead. "No." He wrapped his left arm around Gu Nianji's waist and raised his right arm. He pursed his lips and asked, even though he already knew the answer, "What's wrong? Why were you crying just now?" Not only was she crying, but she was also extremely passionate and proactive. Hua Xiaoheng couldn't help but kiss her cheek again when he thought about the intimacy just now. Gu Nianji rubbed against his chest and drew circles with her finger on his chest. She murmured, "Hua Xiao, you can even accept that kind of thing. How can I give up on you?" "What thing?" Hua Xiaoheng looked down at her with a complicated expression. He quietly sat up on the bed and pulled the blanket up to cover the two of them. Gu Nianji looked up at him and said sincerely, "I know everything. After I was infected with H3AB7 at Feng Yishi's house, did I have sex with someone else to get rid of the drug?" Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. "You ignored me at the time. I thought you didn't like me. I was so sad." Gu Nianji rubbed against Hua Xiaoheng's body and found a comfortable position to lie down. Her face was full of happiness. Gu Nianji felt that although she had experienced that kind of thing, Hua Xiaoheng also had a knot in his heart. He struggled and gave up, but in the end he still ended up with her. This meant that he truly loved her. Hua Xiaoheng hugged Gu Nianji and was speechless as he listened to her imagine his behavior. Since she knew he loved her so much, how could he let another man touch her? Women's logic was really strange. "Who told you that?" Hua Xiaoheng rubbed Gu Nianji's waist with his left hand and deliberately teased her. "How come I didn't know you had sex with another man?" "You didn't know?" Gu Nianji was shocked. She propped herself up from Hua Xiaoheng's chest and said sharply and directly, "If you didn't know, why did you hide from me for the past 6 months?" Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. It was the second watch. Chapter 966. Gu Nianji stared at Hua Xiaoheng, her dark eyes so dark she couldn't see the bottom. Hua Xiaoheng pursed his lips and muttered to himself as he looked at her for a while. His left hand moved up and pressed her head against his chest. He avoided the topic. "It's all in the past. I knew you knew." Gu Nianji couldn't help laughing. She was very proud of her deduction. Leaning against his chest, she heard his heart beat a little faster than before for a moment, but it quickly returned to normal. She hugged Hua Xiaoheng's neck and lay there quietly for a while. She whispered, "Do you still care about it now?" Hua Xiaoheng was speechless. He didn't answer. His left hand caressed Gu Nianji's hair. "Do you still care?" Gu Nianji didn't want to let go of the question. Hua Xiaoheng closed his eyes and said calmly, "Isn't it all in the past? As long as you don't think about it, it won't bother you." "How can I not think about it?" Gu Nianji frowned. "That was my virginity. My first time. I wanted to give it to you." Gu Nianji's voice became softer and softer until it was inaudible. Hua Xiaoheng couldn't help smiling. He lifted Gu Nianji higher in his arms and began kissing her carefully. "I'll take it as you giving it to me." Hua Xiaoheng kissed Gu Nianji until she was panting. He finally let go of her and pressed his face against hers. He rested his chin on her shoulder. You didn't realize it was your first time anyway, so it doesn't count. Gun Yanji was speechless. She blinked, and the feeling that something was wrong intensified. She had long discovered that Hua Xiaoheng had a habit of using his actions to divert her attention when he didn't want to tell the truth. For example, he would kiss her until she lost her sense of direction or make her unable to get out of bed. How can it not count? I can't lie to myself. Gun Yanji's heart skipped a beat. She struggled out of Hua Xiaoheng's arms and held onto his broad shoulders. She said seriously, giving your first time to someone else is giving it to someone else. Hua Xiao, you can't lie to yourself. If you still can't accept it, I understand. Hua Xiaoheng felt uncomfortable when he heard that. He held Gun Yanji's waist and wanted to pull her closer so he could kiss her until she couldn't speak. However, this time, Gun Yanji used more strength to resist him. Hua Xiaoheng didn't want to hurt Gun Yanji, so he let go of her and said dryly, "It'll be dawn in a few hours. Go to sleep first. I have to go wash up. I can't sleep like this." Gun Yanji pushed him away and got out of bed to shower. Looking at herself in the bathroom mirror, Gun Yanji touched her face. There were some vague things in her mind that surfaced from time to time. She replayed the events from beginning to end, but her memory was too fragmented. The last thing she remembered was Qinlai's nervous face as he held the phone. Phone. Gun Yanji blinked. Qinlai was on the phone. Before she lost consciousness, Qinlai was on the phone. She could still remember Qinlai's expression. Other than nervousness, there was also eagerness, respect, and a hint of awe. This expression was definitely not someone who was calling someone with a lower position than him. He was calling someone with a higher position than him. At that time, who would Qinlai have called who held a higher position than him? The answer seemed to be on the verge of being revealed. So Qinlai had asked for Hua Xiaoheng's permission to find a man to sleep with Gun Yanji? Gun Yanji came out of the bathroom with a stomach full of questions and returned to bed. Hua Xiaoheng had already closed his eyes and seemed to be asleep. Gun Yanji reached out and used her hand to trace the bridge of his handsome nose, all the way down to his lips. Hua Xiaoheng held her hand. "Don't mess around. Go to sleep." Gun Yanji lay on the pillow next to him. Her dark eyes seemed to glow in the dark. "Hua Xiao, you know who slept with me, don't you?" Hua Xiaoheng's long eyelashes fluttered. Luckily, Gun Yanji had her head down, so she couldn't see such a small movement. Hua Xiaoheng didn't say anything. He turned to pull Gun Yanji into his arms and made a gesture that said, "I'm very sleepy. I want to sleep." Gun Yanji wasn't going to let him go so easily. "Hua Xiao, you found a man for me, didn't you?" If Qinlai had called Hua Xiaoheng, then the person must have been Hua Xiaoheng's choice. Gun Yanji didn't think that Hua Xiaoheng, who had such a strong desire for control, would let an unreliable national miracle doctor like Qinlai find a man for her. When she found out that Qinlai had said that she had actually slept with a man to get the antidote, she had thought that Qinlai had found a man for her. She had thought that Hua Xiaoheng had been out of town on a mission and Qinlai hadn't been able to contact him, so she had assumed that Qinlai had found a man for her. But in her memory just now, she remembered that Qinlai had been calling someone at the last moment before she lost consciousness. "Qinlai called you. You knew about it, didn't you?" That was the only reason that could explain Hua Xiaoheng's awkwardness after that, right? Or was there another reason? Gun Yanji's habit of being a lawyer emerged again. Hua Xiaoheng's breathing was even, and he seemed to have fallen asleep. Gun Yanji used her hand to check his breathing. She couldn't tell if he was asleep or not, so she turned over and lay flat next to him. She whispered, "Who did it with me? Hua Xiao, can you tell me?" She didn't actually expect Hua Xiaoheng to answer, since he was already asleep. But Hua Xiaoheng opened his eyes at that moment, and his voice was full of displeasure. "What are you going to do if you know?" Gun Yanji looked down. "I want to know who he is, what his name is, where he works and what his status is. He should also be a soldier, right? He doesn't have a girlfriend or a wife, right? Whether it was Qinlai or the man Hua Xiaoheng found for her, they definitely wouldn't find a man with a girlfriend or even a wife to take her virginity, right? Yeah, he doesn't so?" Hua Xiaoheng's tone was calm. If she had ignored his tightly clenched right hand, Gun Yanji wouldn't have noticed anything strange. Unfortunately, because Hua Xiaoheng's arm was injured, she was very worried that she would hurt his arm, so she paid attention to the condition of his right arm. Hua Xiaoheng's subtle movement didn't escape Gun Yanji's eyes. "So I want to thank him." Gun Yanji sat up on the bed. "Why don't you tell me his name and where he is? I want to thank him. After all, he saved my life." "He doesn't need you to thank him. Stop thinking about it and go to sleep." Hua Xiaoheng turned his back to Gun Yanji. Gun Yanji lay down and pressed her face against Hua Xiaoheng's broad back. She smiled. "How do you know he doesn't need me to thank him?" This kind of thing is also an unforgettable memory for a man, right? He doesn't remember it, don't worry. Hua Xiaoheng interrupted her idle thoughts. Qinlai has medicine that can make him unconscious. There's such a medicine? Gu Nianji raised her long brows. But I think I remember it. What should I do? Do I have to ask Qinlai for medicine too? Hua Xiaoheng's chest tightened, and his heart began to beat uncontrollably. You remember? How much? Hua Xiaoheng sat up from the bed and turned on the bedside lamp. He flipped through the bedside table and remembered that this wasn't his bedroom in the official residence. There were no cigarettes here. Gu Nianji's heart was also beating wildly, but she tried her best to remain calm. She smiled and said, "Then how much does Hua Xiao want me to remember?" Hua Xiaoheng turned to look at her, then quickly looked away. "This has nothing to do with me. How much you can remember is up to you." He thought of Gu Nianji's special constitution and felt a trace of uncertainty. What if she really remembered it? What should he do? Oh, I really shouldn't have remembered. Why does my memory have to be so good? Gu Nianji used a very annoying and coy tone to say, "His technique is really good. I heard that the first time is very painful, but he is so memorable." Hua Xiaoheng pulled her over roughly and pressed her under his body. He kissed her fiercely. "I think you don't want to sleep. Hua Xiao, don't be like this. I just want to thank him. I don't even know what he looks like. The person Hua Xiao found for me shouldn't be bad, right? You know I'm a fan of looks and voices." Gu Nianji kept talking to provoke Hua Xiaoheng. "No matter who that person is, I'll be grateful to him. I'll be grateful to him for the rest of my life." Hua Xiaoheng tried to use one hand to hold her in place. He panted and said, "As long as you're obedient for the rest of your life, you'll be grateful to him." Gu Nianji suddenly understood. Lying on her back, she suddenly kicked upwards. Taking advantage of Hua Xiaoheng's quick evasion, she rolled out from under him. Her face was suddenly livid. "It's you? The man Qinlai said would sleep with me and be my antidote was you, wasn't it?" This was the first watch. It was the third watch. The monthly ticket was 2,700 plus watch at 1 p.m. The third watch at 7 p.m. Chapter 967. Hua Xiaoheng propped himself up on the bed and knelt on one leg. He looked up at Gu Nianji with a dark expression and did not directly answer her question. He said calmly, "If you kicked any faster, you'd be the one suffering." His left hand covered his lower body, which was still ready to strike. He panted slightly and there were fine beads of sweat on his forehead. Gu Nianji quickly glanced at him. She couldn't remember if she had kicked him or not, so she said stubbornly, "If I had been any faster, you would have been crippled. Why would I be the one suffering? If I'm crippled, who are you sleeping with?" Hua Xiaoheng took a deep breath to calm himself down. Turning around, he pulled on his pajama pants and said in a low voice, "Isn't it tough being a widow for the rest of my life?" You're crippled, it's your turn to be a widow. Why should I be a widow? I'll be so happy to find another one." Gu Nianji's face flushed with anger at Hua Xiaoheng's attitude. She trembled all over and even began to speak incoherently. Hua Xiaoheng chuckled and got off the bed without saying anything. He thought that he probably wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. If he had known earlier, he would have brought a pack of cigarettes. "You don't believe me?" Gu Nianji frowned as she picked up the black cotton military t-shirt that Hua Xiaoheng had crumpled into a pickle and put it on. She got out of bed as well. "You still haven't answered me. Is it you? Is that important?" Hua Xiaoheng put one hand in the pocket of his pajama pants and looked at her calmly. "Your life was in danger at that time. Besides, it was just sex." Gu Nianji raised her eyebrows and said stiffly, "Fine, you saved my life. I thank you. Is this how you treat your savior?" Hua Xiaoheng leaned forward slightly and said with interest, "You make it sound like you're going to kill me." Gu Nianji pursed her lips. "Anyway, I thank you. However, Hua Xiao, if we're just normal friends, I won't have any complaints about what you've done. In fact, I'll be eternally grateful to you. You can hide it from me or tell me, I won't object. But we're not ordinary friends. We used to be lovers. How could you do such a thing and then walk away and avoid me? And then he kept it a secret from me. This is called cheating. I hate being cheated the most." Hua Xiaoheng lowered his head and said dryly, "When I did it with you, we were just normal friends. So, Gu Nianji, speaking of which, the feeling of lifting a rock and smashing one's own foot was really unpleasant." However, she quickly regained her composure and took a step forward. "Ordinary friends? Who are you trying to fool? If it was another woman who was under the influence of this aphrodisiac, would you sleep with her? Really?" Hua Xiaoheng looked at Gu Nianji's big eyes, which were filled with anger and looked extremely lively. He couldn't say a single word. Yes. Why aren't you talking? Gu Nianji took another step forward. Can you? Wu Xiaoheng sighed. If he said yes, not only would he be lying to Gu Nianji, but he would also be lying to himself. But if she said no, Gu Nianji's tail would be even more cocky. This girl was getting more and more arrogant, so he could only stay silent and look away. I just don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? Gu Nianji became aggrieved as she spoke. It's not like you don't know how I feel about you. She was like a blank piece of paper in front of him. She trusted him unconditionally, relied on him, and treated him as her faith. However, she suddenly realized that her faith had lied to her. This feeling was unbearable. Gu Nianji could only feel her anger level rising. That day in Germany, when she saw the video of Wu Xiaoheng and Tang Guiran getting off the plane together, it destroyed her feelings for him. Now that she discovered that he was hiding the past from her, it almost destroyed all her trust in him. Gu Nianji stared at Wu Xiaoheng, hoping that he would say something and say that he only slept with her because of her. However, Wu Xiaoheng still didn't say a word. He didn't even look at her. He leaned against the windowsill and stretched his long legs. His right hand was bent in front of his chest, and his left hand was in his trouser pocket. His face was slightly tilted, and only the perfect outline of his profile could be seen. Time passed by and Gu Nianji's legs were stiff from waiting. Wu Xiaoheng straightened up from the windowsill. Stop fooling around. Go to sleep. He walked past Gu Nianji. Gu Nianji was very unwilling and reached out to grab his left hand. However, Wu Xiaoheng's left hand was extremely agile. In the blink of an eye, he exchanged a few blows with Gu Nianji and quickly pinned her arm behind her back. You don't want to sleep. Do you want me to tie you up and take you to sleep? Wu Xiaoheng had taught Gu Nianji the little grappling technique, and she practiced it often. Normal people couldn't beat her. However, Wu Xiaoheng was certainly not a normal person. However, it was truly unusual for his left hand to be so agile when his right arm was injured. You're left-handed? Gu Nianji suddenly understood and turned to glare at Wu Xiaoheng. Fine, fine, fine. You treat me like a fool. If you want to hide it, then hide it. If you want to lie to me, then lie to me. Wu Xiaoheng froze and felt a headache coming on. This girl was really smart. She was this smart. Gu Nianji really felt like a fool at that moment. She was worried that Wu Xiaoheng's right hand was inconvenient, so she fed him and helped him bathe. In his eyes, she was a complete fool, wasn't she? Gu Nianji's eyes reddened. She was disheartened and didn't want to make a scene anymore. Let go of me, Major General Hua. Gu Nianji stopped struggling and looked forward. You're good and capable. I'm only fit to be played around by you. Please have mercy and let me go. I'm really tired. Wu Xiaoheng let go of her hand and turned her around by her shoulders. You're crying? Wu Xiaoheng tilted his head to look at her. Is that worth crying? It would have been better if Wu Xiaoheng hadn't said it. As soon as he said it, Gu Nianji felt even more wronged. Tears streamed down her face. She didn't say anything again and only cried silently. She looked so lovely and pitiful. Wu Xiaoheng knew that the self-control he was so proud of had never been successful with Gu Nianji. He pulled her into his arms and wiped her tears. You already know the reason. Why are you still asking me? I don't know. I'm a fool. I don't know anything. Gu Nianji paused and continued to turn her head. I once thought about avoiding you. Wu Xiaoheng held Gu Nianji's hand. But I didn't succeed. Even if you try to avoid me now, you won't succeed. We were meant to be together. Gu Nianji pouted. Then after you had sex with me, you didn't see me for half a year. Were you still struggling? Speak properly. When have I ever struggled? Wu Xiaoheng frowned unhappily. You didn't? Why didn't you see me for half a year if you didn't? Gu Nianji pouted. You don't know how hard it was for me. I'm sorry. Wu Xiaoheng pulled her into his arms. You were underage at the time. I was afraid I would make a mistake. The first time he did it with her, it was to save her life, so even if she was underage, it wasn't wrong. But after that, Wu Xiaoheng was worried that he would crave the taste, so he could only force himself not to see her. Gu Nianji was taken aback. She hadn't considered the underage part at all. Now that she thought about it carefully, when she was infected with H3Ob7, she was not even 18 years old. It was the second watch, and the monthly ticket for 2,700 plus watch arrived. It was the third watch at 7 p.m. Chapter 968. But so what if she was underage? What he had done was what he had done. What's more, he had Chenlai issue a military order. Gu Nianji didn't have to look to know what was written on the military order. At that time he was worried that others would find out, right? After all, he was still her guardian at that time and she was indeed underage. Gu Nianji also knew that if Hua Xiaoheng's political enemies found out about this, Hua Xiaoheng would really be done for. But she still felt a little sad. Struggling out of Hua Xiaoheng's embrace, Gu Nianji lowered her head and turned to leave. Where are you going? Hua Xiaoheng grabbed her arm. It's so late. Sleep here. He was actually worried that Gu Nianji would take things too hard and do something stupid. After all, Qinlai's call had left a psychological scar on Hua Xiaoheng. No, I'm going back to my room to sleep. Gu Nianji shook her head stubbornly. Hua Xiao, you're too amazing. You can play a weak woman like me around whenever and wherever you want. I don't dare to hang around in front of you anymore. Who knows when you'll sell me off and I'll even count the money for you. What was going on? The stone in Hua Xiaoheng's heart fell to the ground, and then he realized that the stone had fallen on his own feet. He helplessly followed Gu Nianji out to her bedroom. Go back. I won't do anything stupid. Gu Nianji calmly climbed into bed and pulled the blanket over herself. Hua Xiaoheng didn't hesitate. He turned around to close the door and turn off the lights. He then returned to Gu Nianji's bed and lifted the blankets to lie down. Gu Nianji pushed him. Go back to your room. If Auntie sees this, how am I supposed to live? It's okay. I'll go back to my bedroom before Miss Song comes out. Hua Xiaoheng didn't allow for an explanation. He pulled Gu Nianji into his arms. Go to sleep. I'll wake you up. Gu Nianji had been throwing a tantrum all night and doing something physically exhausting with Hua Xiaoheng. She was also exhausted. She didn't have the strength to push him anymore, so she fell into a deep sleep in his arms. Hua Xiaoheng breathed a sigh of relief when she finally stopped. Before she went to sleep, she took out her phone and saw that Qinlai had sent her a series of hanging emojis to express his sincere remorse. Hua Xiaoheng put down his phone and didn't reply to Qinlai. Gu Nianji seemed to have only dozed off for a moment before she saw the sun rise. As expected, Hua Xiaoheng was nowhere to be seen. She stretched herself and sat up on the bed. The room was filled with sunlight, shining through the white muslin curtains. After spacing out for a while, Gu Nianji lifted the covers and got out of bed. Just then she heard someone knocking on the door. Song Jinning's voice came from the door. Gu Nianji quickly went to open the door. Good morning, Auntie. Song Jinning was wearing a lake green cashmere cardigan and white wool pants. She looked at her with a refreshing smile. Breakfast is ready. You and Xiaoheng can go eat. I'm leaving. Gu Nianji pulled Song Jinning in surprise. Auntie, where are you going? Are you going to give New Year's greetings? I'm not giving New Year's greetings. Song Jinning patted her shoulder. I'm going to the lab. After running a few programs last night, I had a new idea. She took out Hua Guanyuan's phone and shook it in front of Gu Nianji. And this one. It's also waiting for me to decrypt it. Gu Nianji watched enviously as Song Jinning left in a hurry, disappearing down the hallway stairs. After washing up, Gu Nianji went downstairs to the dining room. She found Hua Xiaoheng already sitting at the dining table, flipping through a newspaper. Seeing Gu Nianji come in, Hua Xiaoheng folded the newspaper and placed it on the small table behind him. Eat breakfast. I went out to buy it. This beef buns and millet porridge are your favorites. Hua Xiaoheng pushed a plate of beef buns the size of an egg to Gu Nianji. After eating, we'll go to General Ji's house to give New Year's greetings. Gu Nianji finished her breakfast in silence. When she went upstairs to change, Gu Nianji objected. I don't want to go. I don't know them well. Hua Xiaoheng, I want to go back to my own home. Hua Xiaoheng buttoned up his military uniform and said calmly, Let's go. General Ji knows we're married. Gu Nianji's face flushed again. She glared at Hua Xiaoheng angrily. How many people know about this? General Ji is the only one in the military who knows, so I have to take you to him for New Year's greetings. Hua Xiaoheng buttoned up his uniform and buckled his belt. Don't worry. No one else knows. I told General Ji and he promised to keep it a secret. Gu Nianji breathed a sigh of relief but still asked suspiciously, You're not lying to me this time, are you? I really don't want to be played like a monkey again. Hua Xiaoheng nodded calmly. No, only General Ji and Secretary Chao know we're married. And Qinlai and Zhou Qiyuan. These four people aren't blabbermouths. Even Yin Shixiang and Zhao Liangzi didn't know. Gu Nianji pouted. Qinlai isn't blabbermouthed? I think I know a fake Qinlai. Hua Xiaoheng curled his lips. Don't worry. I'll make sure he remembers this time. Gu Nianji felt very uneasy when she heard his threatening words. She hesitated and reluctantly pleaded for Qinlai. Brother Qin didn't mean it. He's very reliable most of the time. It's not enough to be reliable most of the time. Hua Xiaoheng appeared very serious. You have to be reliable all the time. Qinlai is obviously lacking. Gu Nianji was speechless. Forget it. She had tried her best. Thinking about how Qinlai and Hua Xiaoheng were also hiding things from her, Gu Nianji felt a little unhappy. Hua Xiaoheng turned to persuade her again. But how long are you going to hide our marriage? Why don't you take the opportunity to bring some wedding candies? Gu Nianji almost rolled her eyes 360 times in her mind. Giving some wedding candies during the new year and he thought she was married? Sorry, Gu Nianji am not that cheap. Gu Nianji sat down and didn't leave. If you want to bring wedding candies, go yourself. I won't admit it anyway. I was just mentioning it. If you don't want it, then forget it. Hua Xiaoheng pulled her up. Hurry up and get changed. We're running out of time. Gu Nianji took a deep breath and walked to her room. Fortunately, she had brought a few decent clothes with her. Because it was the new year, Gu Nianji changed into a bright red cashmere sweater and wore a peacock blue seawater pearl necklace. The pearl necklace was the size of a pinky finger. It reflected the bright red cashmere sweater and complemented each other. Hua Xiaoheng was still in his military uniform. He put on a wool military coat and went out with Gu Nianji. On the first day of the new year, the military compound where General Ji lived was bustling with people. Gu Nianji followed Hua Xiaoheng into the private courtyard where General Ji lived. Before they even entered, they could hear waves of laughter coming from inside. Xiaoheng, what a coincidence. You're also here to pay New Year's greetings to General Ji. Speaker Long's voice came from behind. Gu Nianji and Hua Xiaoheng turned around and saw Speaker Long and a few people getting out of the car. Gu Nianji was very familiar with one of them. It was Special Assistant Yang. It was the third watch. Chapter 969. Gu Nianji certainly wouldn't argue with Hua Xiaoheng when someone came to greet her. She had never made a mistake in her etiquette in front of a large crowd. Hua Xiaoheng stopped and shook hands with Speaker Long with a smile. Happy New Year, Speaker Long. You seem to have gotten a few years younger since I last saw you. The busier you are, the more energetic you are. Ah, Xiaoheng, you really know how to talk. The busier I am, the more energetic I am. Speaker Long laughed heartily and quickly looked at Gu Nianji, who was standing next to Hua Xiaoheng. Miss Gu, it's so good to see you. You're here to visit General Ji too? Speaker Long turned to look at Gu Nianji and reached out his hand. I was planning to talk to you after the new year and happened to run into you here today. This is really a chance encounter. Ah. Gu Nianji was a little flattered and quickly shook his hand. She smiled and said, originally, I didn't have the right to come to this place, but Hua Xiao's right arm was injured and Colonel Yin and Colonel Zhao weren't by his side, so I volunteered to be his nurse. Hua Xiaoheng didn't expect Gu Nianji to come up with such an excuse. He couldn't help but look at her but didn't expose her. Speaker Long was shocked and looked at Hua Xiaoheng. How did your right arm get injured? Is it serious? Hua Xiaoheng had come to visit for the new year, so his right arm wasn't in a splint. It was just slightly bent and hanging by his side. If Gu Nianji didn't say anything, most people wouldn't be able to tell that Hua Xiaoheng's arm was injured. It's not serious. I was accidentally shocked during the annual inspection. Hua Xiaoheng told the truth. There was nothing to hide. Oh, that's good. Speaker Long patted his shoulder. Xiaoheng, although you're young, you still have to take care. I'll be careful. Thank you, Speaker Long, Hua Xiaoheng said politely and turned to walk side by side with Speaker Long to the steps of General Ji's courtyard. Gu Nianji naturally fell a step behind and walked with Special Assistant Yang, who was behind Speaker Long. Special Assistant Yang looked straight ahead, so Gu Nianji didn't take the initiative to greet him. Speaker Long chatted with Hua Xiaoheng for a bit. As he walked up the steps, he remembered what he wanted to tell Gu Nianji. He turned around to look at her and asked, Miss Gu, I heard that you graduated your master's degree in advance? Gu Nianji nodded quickly. You can just call me Nianji. Yes, I just graduated with a master's degree. That's ahead of schedule. That's good, that's good. Speaker Long was so happy that he couldn't stop smiling. He didn't even care about Hua Xiaoheng anymore. He confided in Gu Nianji, Nianji, the Secretariat of the Senate is currently recruiting people. You should apply and I'll write a recommendation letter for you. With such a good seedling like you, I have to strike first to gain the upper hand. Gu Nianji didn't expect Speaker Long to think so highly of her. Are you serious? Of course, why would I joke around with a little girl like you? Speaker Long refused to let go of her hand. By the way, Qingying, you know Xie Qingying, right? I heard she's your relative? Cousin Xie? I know her. Gu Nianji nodded with a smile. We even had dinner together. Ever since Gu Nianji helped Xie Qingying clear the suspicion of being of Japanese descent in court, Xie Dezhao and Xie Qingying had been very nice to Gu Nianji. Moreover, they were relatives. Gu Nianji's father, Gu Xiangwen, and Xie Qingying's mother, Gu Tian, who was also Xie Dezhao's wife, were biological siblings. Speaker Long quickly said, "Qingying's mother is my cousin now, so it looks like we're relatives too." Gu Nianji knew this. Originally, she didn't want to be related to Speaker Long, but Speaker Long took the initiative to say it. She played along with him and said with a smile, "Oh, then I'm really in a higher position. With Speaker Long as my backer in the future, won't I be able to do whatever I want?" "Are you born in the year of the crab?" Speaker Long smiled. He thought it was very interesting to talk to Gu Nianji. "No, of course I'm not born in the year of the crab." Gu Nianji smoothly held onto Speaker Long's arm as they walked up the stairs. "Since you're not born in the year of the crab, how can you do whatever you want?" Speaker Long laughed heartily and walked with Gu Nianji to the entrance of General Ji's house. Hua Xiaoheng fell behind. However, he didn't look unhappy. On the contrary, Hua Xiaoheng felt proud that Gu Nianji had received Speaker Long's recognition. Special Assistant Yang also fell behind and was now walking with Hua Xiaoheng. Miss Gu is so lucky. She has Hua Xiao to protect her and Speaker Long to back her up. For someone like her, the starting line is the finishing line for others, Special Assistant Yang said with emotion. He glanced at Hua Xiaoheng, but Hua Xiaoheng didn't respond. He smiled faintly and walked into the entrance. When they entered General Ji's house, they immediately saw General Ji sitting in the living room and chatting with the people who had arrived earlier. Everyone was in a good mood and laughter could be heard from the other side. As soon as Speaker Long entered, he was immediately led to General Ji. Everyone stood up and shook hands with Speaker Long. General Ji greeted Speaker Long and quickly saw Gu Nianji standing next to Speaker Long. He said in surprise, "Nianji? You came with Speaker Long? Where's Xiaoheng?" Gu Nianji blushed slightly but still replied gracefully, "Hua Xiao is here too." She turned to look at the entrance. "Look, I'm here now." Speaker Long smiled at General Ji. "I know Xiaoheng is your favorite general, but you don't have to be so biased, right? You didn't even look at me when I was standing in front of you." "Ha ha, of course not. I was just too surprised to see Nianji come in with you," General Ji said as he waved at Gu Nianji. "Nianji, how did you come with Speaker Long?" Gu Nianji smiled. "I came with Hua Xiao and met Speaker Long at the door, so we walked in together." She knew that the people sitting there were all the most powerful people in the Huaxia Empire. She wasn't familiar with them and they were only polite to her because of Hua Xiaoheng. As soon as Hua Xiaoheng came over, she tactfully retreated. As expected, General Ji and Speaker Long both began to talk to Hua Xiaoheng. Everyone sat down on the sofa in the living room and began to talk about their national affairs. Gu Nianji walked alone to a small sitting room attached to the living room. It wasn't a big place, only about 10 square meters. The bay window was covered with soft cushions and a pillow with a panda design. Gu Nianji's own pillow was in the shape of a small panda, so it looked very familiar. There were already people sitting together in twos and threes. Whether it was the long sofa or the single sofa, they were all occupied. They all looked like the attendants of the big shots in the living room. Gu Nianji greeted them and naturally sat on the bay windowsill. She was lost in thought as she looked at the winter scenery outside. Outside the window was General Ji's flower garden. There were 2 winter plum trees in the winter garden, blooming brilliantly and fragrant. A middle-aged woman who looked like a servant walked over with a tea tray. She smiled at Gu Nianji. "Miss Gu, this is crystal winter plum cake and meat floss egg rolls. Please try them. Would you like tea or coffee?" Gu Nianji thought about it. "What kind of coffee do you have?" "Latte, cappuccino, black coffee, all of them, and milk tea." "Oh, milk tea then." Gu Nianji thought it would be delicious with the crystal winter plum cake. Soon after, the milk tea was brought in. Gu Nianji sat cross-legged on the bay windowsill. There were 2 plates of pastries and a cup of steaming milk tea on the tea tray in front of her. Gu Nianji held the milk tea in her palm and took a deep breath. Smelling the unique fragrance of the milk tea, she looked intoxicated. Although Hua Xiaoheng was sitting far away in the living room, at least half of his attention was on Gu Nianji. Seeing her happily sitting cross-legged on the bay windowsill in the small living room with pastries in front of her and milk tea in her hand, he finally relaxed. He shifted his gaze back to General Ji and Speaker Long to focus on their conversation. The big shots were also using this opportunity to have a meeting. The entire living room of General Ji's house was under strict surveillance. Special Assistant Yang didn't have the right to participate in this kind of emergency meeting. Therefore, he was also led to the living room where the attendants were. He smiled and said, Special Assistant Yang, please take a seat. I'll bring you some pastries. Special Assistant Yang waved his hand. No need, just give me a cup of coffee. Latte, no sugar. Okay. After the servant left, Special Assistant Yang came to Gu Nianji and bowed slightly. Miss Gu, we meet again. Gu Nianji nodded with a smile. Special Assistant Yang, we met outside just now. At the time, Special Assistant Yang pretended she didn't exist. Gu Nianji only noticed Special Assistant Yang's gaze when Speaker Long pulled her aside to talk. Ah, Miss Gu is so funny. Special Assistant Yang sat cross-legged across from her and nodded with a smile. Miss Gu is so lucky. You had the protection of a professor in school and graduated early. As soon as you graduated, the job automatically came to you. It seems that you also received a lot of resources from Major General Hua. This is like having a big tree to lean on, haha. This was the first update. Today was Monday, so everyone had to vote for her. Chapter 970. Gu Nianji's eyebrows twitched, but her expression didn't change. She had already sensed that Special Assistant Yang didn't like her, so she didn't get angry at his words. However, although she wasn't angry, she couldn't take it lying down. It was fine that she was humiliated in front of Hua Xiaoheng, but who was Special Assistant Yang? How dare he provoke her with his words? Gu Nianji blinked and looked down to take a sip of her fragrant milk tea. She said calmly, Special Assistant Yang, you are also Speaker Long's right-hand man. How can your words be illogical? Which university did you graduate from? The quality of your teaching is worrying. Special Assistant Yang was most proud of his education. He had relied on his own ability to get into the B University Faculty of Law and climb to his current position in the Senate Secretariat. It wasn't like he didn't have any skills. How could he be called illogical by a pretty face he looked down on? Haha, I told you that we were classmates in the B University Faculty of Law. It seems like your memory isn't that good. If I'm illogical, then I'm afraid Miss Gu doesn't know how to spell the word logic. Special Assistant Yang didn't bother being polite with Gu Nianji anymore. Gu Nianji snorted and tilted her head to look at Special Assistant Yang lazily. Alumni of B University? Tiske, there are all kinds of birds in a big forest. It's not surprising that the B University Faculty of Law has alumni like Special Assistant Yang. What do you mean? Special Assistant Yang's expression darkened. It's not gentlemanly to speak sarcastically. Gu Nianji put a piece of crystal wintersweet cake into her mouth and swallowed it slowly before shaking her head. Special Assistant Yang, I'm the same to you. Weren't you the one who spoke sarcastically first? I'm telling the truth. Am I also speaking sarcastically? Special Assistant Yang laughed and felt even more disdain for Gu Nianji. What did Speaker Long actually see in her? Was it because of Xie Qingying? Gu Nianji laughed. You're telling the truth? You're illogical, so how dare you say you're telling the truth? Seeing that Special Assistant Yang was about to defend himself again, Gu Nianji didn't give him a chance to speak. She climbed down from the bay window and stood in front of Special Assistant Yang. She said condescendingly, listen to what you just said. I graduated early because of the professor's protection. As soon as I graduated, a job came knocking on my door. You didn't mention this, but we all know that it was the position that Speaker Long proposed today. One was Professor He of B University, and the other was Speaker Long of the Senate. Do you know what kind of person Professor He is? You know what kind of person Speaker Long is, right? Can Major General Hua order these two people around? Executive Assistant Yang almost bit his tongue and quickly said, of course not. Who was Speaker Long? Bright wind and clear moon. His character was top-notch. How could he listen to someone else's orders? That's right. Gu Nianji clasped her hands together. So, Speaker Long taking a liking to me and inviting me to join his secretariat has nothing to do with Major General Hua at all. What right do you have to say that Major General Hua gave me the resources? Executive Assistant Yang's face darkened. The small living room wasn't very big, so the people sitting inside heard their conversation and looked over curiously. Also, what about Professor He? Do you know what kind of person Professor He is? I see that you're not saying anything, so I'll pretend that you don't know. Professor He is not only a distinguished professor of the B University Faculty of Law, but also a tenured professor at Harvard Law School in the United States. He is also a partner of the largest law firm in the United States. May I ask, can Major General Hua order such a person around? Professor He and Speaker Long, do these two people act according to other people's wishes? If they aren't, then what right do you have to say that I have someone to rely on? Who gave you the courage? Liang Jingru? Gu Nianji picked up a tissue to wipe her hands and raised her voice. The people in the living room couldn't help laughing, and some even spat out the coffee in their mouths. The servants waiting at the door of the living room quickly called for people to come in and clean up. The commotion here was a little bigger, and the big shots in the small meeting in the living room all looked over one by one. Hua Xiaoheng saw Gu Nianji standing in front of Special Assistant Yang at first glance. Although Gu Nianji's back was facing them, Special Assistant Yang was facing them. From Special Assistant Yang's shocked and embarrassed expression, he knew that Gu Nianji wasn't at a disadvantage. Therefore, Hua Xiaoheng didn't say a word and took out a cigarette to toast everyone. Because they were going to smoke, the door of the small living room connected to the living room was closed. The big shots were smoking in the spacious living room and had an impromptu small meeting. Gu Nianji saw that the door to the living room was closed, so she wasn't worried about being overheard by the people in the living room. She said even more arrogantly, "So, Special Assistant Yang, do you think you're illogical? Also, is it because you're not good enough and got into the secretariat through the back door that you're trying to figure out other people? But just because you like to use your connections to get in through the back door doesn't mean others will. Professor, he has the final say on when I can graduate. Whether or not I can get into the secretariat in the future is up to Speaker Long. You don't have to worry about that." After Gu Nianji finished speaking, she left the bay windowsill and found a seat by the door to sit down. She calmly took out her phone and began playing games. Special Assistant Yang was furious, but seeing that there were so many people around, he couldn't really argue with Gu Nianji. He looked at her for a while with a sullen expression and didn't follow her. He also took out his phone to see if there were any important emails. Not long after, he received a text from Kai Xingnan. "Miss Kai, Special Assistant Yang, are you at General Ji's house?" Special Assistant Yang immediately replied, "Here." The two of them casually chatted for a while. "Miss Kai, who else went?" "Unfortunately, I didn't have the chance to visit General Ji for the new year. My uncle and aunt didn't go, so I couldn't go. I envy you." Special Assistant Yang, "Miss Kai, you're too kind. To me it's like work. Speaker Long's New Year's visit is also work." "Miss Kai, yes, it's all work. By the way, I heard that Major General Hua also went, is that right? Is he there too?" Special Assistant Yang saw this and quickly looked up at Gu Nianji, who was sitting by the door, then sent a message to Kai Xingnan. "Special Assistant Yang, Hua Xiao is here and he brought Gu Nianji with him." Kai Xingnan saw this message and seemed to be stunned for a while. She didn't reply for a few minutes. Special Assistant Yang curled one side of his lips and smiled. These two people were both his competitors. Just when Special Assistant Yang thought that Kai Xingnan wouldn't reply to him, Kai Xingnan replied to his message. "Miss Kai, really? That's interesting. I heard that they broke up. Is this information not accurate?" Special Assistant Yang, "Miss Kai, your information is very accurate. They did break up. Today, Gu Nianji followed Major General Hua to visit General Ji for the new year as his nurse. Major General Hua was injured." Kai Xingnan was even more worried. She stopped texting and called Special Assistant Yang directly. "Special Assistant Yang, what did you say? Major General Hua was injured? Where was he injured? Is it serious?" Special Assistant Yang looked at Gu Nianji with a smile. "It seems to be an arm. It shouldn't be serious." Gu Nianji was immersed in her game and didn't know about Special Assistant Yang's little trick at all. If it's not serious, then why is Gu Nianji accompanying him as a nurse? Why is this person like this? What is he thinking? Besides, doesn't Major General Hua have a personal secretary? Why is she going out with him? Kai Xingnan expressed her confusion. Special Assistant Yang couldn't agree more. He shook his head and said, "Major General Hua's personal secretary didn't even come today. Miss Kai, do you think everyone is like you and relies on their own abilities to make a living? Besides, she's an orphan and her father died young. Only a fool wouldn't suck up to Major General Hua." It was the second watch. Today was Monday, so everyone had to vote for her. Chapter 971. They're not with Major General Hua? Kai Xingnan was shocked. It's the new year. Where did they go? I don't know. I'm not part of their system, so it's hard to find out. The Special Operations Forces was as solid as a steel plate, and no one could penetrate it. Special Assistant Yang had even tried to plant some Senate spies into the Special Operations Forces in the past, but Hua Xiaoheng had carried out a massive purge and none of his spies were spared. They were all sent to the military court. After that, they never dared to place people in the Special Operations Forces again. Kai Xingnan felt bad after hearing Special Assistant Yang's words. She snorted and said dryly, "It seems like people shouldn't be so thin-skinned. People who are thin-skinned are afraid of everything. My cousin and Major General Hua are a match made in heaven, but she's not as thick-skinned as some people who insist on staying by his side. Why don't you take a look at your own wealth? Do you think you're worthy of a family like the Hua family? Special Assistant Yang listened to the jealousy that couldn't be suppressed and was shocked for 2 seconds. He quickly changed his tone and smiled like an elder. You can't say that. Gun Yinji is actually quite rich. Her family's inheritance is an astronomical figure. When she was fighting her inheritance lawsuit, I attended 2 of the hearings. My opinion was insignificant, but Speaker Long was full of praise for her. He even told me to win her over and planned to recommend her to the special office of the Secretariat of the Senate. Kai Xingnan was silent for a while. Her breathing could be heard clearly. It was obvious she was feeling emotional. Special Assistant Yang didn't say anything either. He waited quietly for a while before Kai Xingnan continued, Inheritance? That was originally her sister, Gu Yanran's, right? Didn't she use Major General Hua's power to fight a lawsuit and split the inheritance with her biological daughter? Also, she can't protect her family's inheritance even if she has money but no power. She has no parents or relatives. If it were me, I would also cling to Major General Hua and not let go. That's common sense. Oh, that's not true. The Gu family's inheritance does belong to Gun Yenji. Gu Yanran isn't even a biological daughter of the Gu family. That's already very clear. Special Assistant Yang explained to Kai Xingnan in detail. Because the case was closed, the media didn't report it. Only the highest-ranking officials and related relatives and friends could listen to the entire trial. At the end of the trial, Gu Yanran was still in custody because she was suspected of murder for money. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter, and her subordinates have long run away. Therefore, Kai Xingnan didn't know much about the details of the lawsuit. Actually, Kai Xingnan was the same as Special Assistant Yang. They both believed that Gun Yinji had won the estate dispute lawsuit not because of her own abilities, but because of He Jichu and Hua Xiaoheng. Now that Special Assistant Yang had confirmed that Gun Yinji was indeed the heir to the Gu family's astronomical inheritance, Kai Xingnan raised an eyebrow and said, Actually, it doesn't mean anything that the inheritance is hers. This kind of inheritance located abroad is usually managed by a trust fund. At most, Gun Yinji can receive a fixed share of the estate income from the trust fund every month. It's impossible for her to have the qualifications and ability to control the entire estate. Oh, I'm not sure about that. Miss Kai has always been a lawyer in the United States, so she definitely knows more about this than I do. Special Assistant Yang was very humble and flattered Kai Xingnan very well. Kai Xingnan also introduced him to how trust funds operated abroad and finally ended the conversation happily. After putting down the phone, Kai Xingnan walked around the room a few times. Although she didn't think much of Gun Yinji shamelessly following Hua Xiaoheng around, she was more worried about Hua Xiaoheng's health. However, it was the first day of the Lunar New Year, so she couldn't go to a local doctor to ask how to recuperate in such a situation. Later, she remembered that the United States didn't celebrate the Lunar New Year, so she quickly called a doctor she was familiar with in the United States. When the doctor heard that it was only an electric shock, he didn't care and smiled to reassure her. He said that it was only a superficial wound and wouldn't hurt his muscles or bones. Kai Xingnan patted her face and realized that she was so nervous that her face was stiff. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, she celebrated the holiday at Prime Minister Tan's official residence. Her aunt, Kai Songyin, and her daughter, Tan Guorin, were there to entertain the guests who came to visit. Of course, they were all cabinet officials and their families. Other than Prime Minister Tan, the person with the highest position today was probably the Minister of the Interior, Bai Jianqing. He had brought his daughter, Bai Yueran, with him. Tan Guorin was now the chief violinist of the army's performing group, so she could be considered to have joined the army. She was in the same system as Bai Yueran. She was in charge of entertaining Bai Yueran. Director Bai, try this. It's authentic cantaloupe from the northwest. It just arrived by air yesterday. Tan Guorin enthusiastically placed a crystal plate in front of Bai Yueran. On it was a sliced cantaloupe with 8 petals. Bai Yueran picked up a toothpick and forked a piece of cantaloupe into her mouth. The fragrant and sweet juice immediately awakened all the taste buds. Yes, it's really not bad. There's fresh cantaloupe to eat on the first day of the Lunar New Year, and the best part is that it's from the northwest. Bai Yueran narrowed her eyes and ate with relish. Tan Guorin sat beside her and ate the cantaloupe with her. They chatted quietly and the atmosphere was very harmonious. At that moment, Kai Xingnan walked over and sat next to Tan Guorin and across from Bai Yueran. She also reached out to eat a piece of cantaloupe as she asked Bai Yueran, Director by, I just heard someone say that Major General Hua went to General Ji's house to visit the Lunar New Year, but his personal secretary didn't go with him. Bai Yuan smiled. That's an internal matter of our system. She then asked, Miss Kai, why are you asking about this? Kai Xingnan laughed heartily and said openly, I'm worried about Major General Hua. I heard that his right arm is injured, so it must be very inconvenient for him to go about his daily life. Bai Yuan was also very surprised. Major General Hua's right arm is injured? When did that happen? Why didn't I know about it? Hua Xiaoheng had been injured on the Lunar New Year's Eve when he was doing the system's annual inspection. Of course she didn't know. Kai Xingnan had just learned about it from Special Assistant Yang over the phone, but she wouldn't reveal her source of information. She only said vaguely, I heard it from a friend who happened to be visiting General Ji's house for the Lunar New Year. This friend must be very important to be able to visit General Ji's house for the Lunar New Year at this time. Bai Yuan glanced at her and didn't say anything. Tan Guiran couldn't sit still after hearing that. Ever since Hua Xiaoheng's mother, Song Jining, personally told her to get together with Hua Xiaoheng's father, Hua Guanchen, Tan Guiran had been ashamed and angry for a long time. She had already made up her mind not to contact Hua Xiaoheng anymore. Song Jining was Hua Xiaoheng's mother, and she had clearly expressed her dislike for her. Tan Guiran didn't want Hua Xiaoheng to be stuck between his mother and her, so she had already taken the initiative to distance herself from Hua Xiaoheng. Although she had also been with the military art troupe for the past 2 weeks, she had automatically blocked all news related to Hua Xiaoheng. The military art troupe was a place for gossip, so she could hear all kinds of news every day. Especially Hua Xiaoheng, who was a single high-ranking general at such a young age and was extremely good-looking. He was the topic of everyone's conversation every day. Under such circumstances, although Tan Guiran had a hard time holding it in, she had been holding it in. It wasn't until now that she heard that Hua Xiaoheng was injured that she felt the emotion she had painstakingly suppressed for the past 2 weeks burst out like a spring tide. Cousin, since Major General Hua is injured, why isn't he recuperating? His personal secretary isn't with him, so who's going to take care of him? Tan Guiran had been holding it in but finally asked. Kai Xingnan had been waiting for her to ask this question. She laughed dryly. Who else could it be? Of course it's the almighty Gun Yanji. She's currently following Major General Hua as a nurse. Cousin, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you've lost to Gun Yanji in terms of shamelessness. Miss Kai, please be careful with your words. Bai Yuan frowned. She was very unhappy to hear Kai Xingnan talk about Gun Yanji like that. In her mind, Gun Yanji was part of the Special Operations Forces. She was a little girl who had grown up in the Special Operations Forces, so she couldn't tolerate others talking about her like that. Moreover, Bai Yuan knew a thing or two about Gun Yanji and Hua Xiaoheng. It wasn't like what Kai Xingnan had said at all. Kai Xingnan wanted to incite Tan Guiran's common hatred for the enemy, so she said without mercy, Am I wrong? That Gun Yanji clearly broke up with Major General Hua, but she shamelessly followed Major General Hua as a nurse. Actually, Major General Hua's injury isn't serious, and Gun Yanji doesn't have a nurse license. Why would she do that? Isn't it obvious to everyone what she's up to? All in all, this woman is too utilitarian. She's so scheming. Cousin, you're so innocent. You're no match for her at all. Kai Xingnan placed a cup of milk tea in front of Tan Guiran and concluded. Shut up. Bai Yuan couldn't take it anymore. She stood up with both hands in her trouser pockets and said with a sullen expression, Miss Kai is indeed an internationally renowned lawyer. You're really good at stirring up trouble. This was the first time. Chapter 972. Kai Xingnan was stunned. Director Bai, I'm just telling the truth. Tan Guiran quickly tried to smooth things over. Director Bai, don't be angry. My cousin is straightforward and doesn't have any bad intentions. She has lived abroad for many years and is used to speaking frankly. Miss Tan, this is the worst time outspoken has ever been slandered. If she said that about Gun Yanji and Miss Tan thought that she was just being outspoken, then I would either doubt Miss Tan's intelligence or her character. Pick one. Goodbye. Bai Yuan didn't want to stay here any longer because she didn't see eye to eye with him. Moreover, Bai Yuan didn't like the Tan family to begin with because her father, Bai Jianqing, had lost the election. He was only here to pay a New Year's visit out of courtesy. She found her father, Bai Jianqing, and whispered, Dad, are we going back? Bai Jianqing and Tan Dongbang actually didn't have much to talk about. The two of them had different ideologies to begin with, and they almost fell out during the election. However, Tan Dongbang needed Bai Jianqing's control over the cabinet to help him get through the early stages of transition. Bai Jianqing also needed to consolidate his connections in the cabinet before he stepped down. Only then did the two of them work together. Today was the first day of the new year. Coming to the Prime Minister's residence to pay a New Year visit was just the norm for cabinet officials. It was just like a job that had to be completed. Bai Jianqing thought that someone had offended her when he saw Bai Yueran's unhappy expression. He hurriedly said without batting an eyelid, "You can leave first. I'll sit here for a while. Don't show it on your face. How old are you? Why are you still acting like a child?" Bai Yueran quickly put on a standard professional smile. "Yes, father." She walked over and said goodbye to Kai Songyin with a smile. "Mrs. Kai, thank you for the cantaloupe today. It was especially delicious. Miss Tan has a gentle personality and gets along well with everyone in the song and dance troupe. You have a lot of people here, so I won't bother you anymore. I still have a few places to visit for the new year, so I'll take my leave first." Kai Songyin pulled her back with a smile on her face. "Director Bai, don't you want to sit for a while longer? We haven't had lunch yet." "No, I also have a lot of things to do over there. I'm busy. My father is still here. Please bear with him and don't let him drink too much. Once he drinks he goes crazy." Bai Yueran shook hands with Kai Songyin and turned to leave. After leaving the Prime Minister's residence, Bai Yueran drove her own car and circled around the city. In the end she still went to find Bai Shuang. Yesterday was New Year's Eve. The Bai family gathered together and had a lively New Year's Eve dinner. The Bai family had a large population in the Wuxia Empire. Other than Bai Jianqing's 3 brothers and 1 sister who were direct descendants, there were also many collateral relatives and cousins. Through intertwining marriages, they were distributed in various political and business departments and industries, and they were all leading figures. Every new year, the Bai family's courtyard house located at the foot of the imperial city on the Second Ring Road would be decorated with lanterns and colored banners. It was very lively and had a festive atmosphere. After observing the new year, everyone left. Even the Bai family, whose families and businesses were not in the capital, had their own residences in the capital, so they didn't need to squeeze with the Bai family. Bai Shuang was the only daughter of the second branch of the Bai family. The second son of the Bai family, Bai Yuxing, had been secretly executed for defecting to the United States. Bai Shuang stayed abroad for a while and then came back. Bai Jianqing was worried that it wasn't easy for her to live alone, so he took the initiative to ask her to live with them so it would be easier to take care of her. Bai Shuang had always been on good terms with her uncle and cousin Bai Yueran, so she agreed and didn't return home. However, because she discovered Zhao Liangzi and Bai Yueran's relationship a while ago, she no longer wanted to live in the Bai family's courtyard house. She didn't lack houses in the country or abroad. She had a high-end apartment in the Third Ring Road, a detached villa in the suburbs, and vacation homes in the Wuxia Empire and various scenic cities abroad. She could choose any one of them and stay for a long time. Bai Shuang had originally planned to pack her luggage tomorrow and go abroad to relax. On the first day of the new year, everyone else was busy visiting relatives, but she was the only one who had nothing to do and stayed in her small apartment in a daze. Holding a cup of coffee, she sat in a rocking chair on the glass balcony and silently stared at the horizon in the distance. A book was spread out on her knees, but she didn't read a word. Not long after, the phone's ringtone broke the silence. Bai Shuang didn't want to pick up the phone at first, but it kept ringing and she didn't want to give up. She couldn't help but be a little curious. Who would be so persistent in looking for her, a person whose life had already hit rock bottom? She took the phone and looked at it. Her heart skipped a beat. It was actually Zhao Liangzi's number. She hesitated for a solid minute before finally hanging up. Since he had already chosen to be with her cousin, he shouldn't look for her again. Even if they were just normal friends, Bai Shuang couldn't bring herself to be normal friends with the person she had a crush on, so she chose not to contact him at all. The other party didn't seem to believe her and took the initiative to hang up. He called a few more times, but Bai Shuang hung up every time. In the end, Zhao Liangzi seemed to understand that Bai Shuang really didn't want to pick up his call, so he could only send a text message. "Little Zay, Shuang, Happy New Year. Why didn't you pick up my call? I just wanted to greet you." Bai Shuang was furious when she saw it. Greet my ass. She wasn't the kind of person who would still be friends after breaking up, not to mention that she didn't even have the right to break up with him. Bai Shuang didn't say anything else and blocked Zhao Liangzi's number. There were no more phone ringtones or text messages. Her world was finally quiet. Finishing the coffee in her hand, Bai Shuang got up and planned to go to the kitchen to make some small wontons for herself. At that moment, her phone rang again. Bai Shuang thought it was still Zhao Liangzi and couldn't help but be surprised. How could this person be so amazing? He could still call after being blocked. However, when she took the phone, it wasn't Zhao Liangzi, but Bai Yueran. She could ignore Zhao Liangzi and block him, but she couldn't do that to Bai Yueran. No matter what, she was still her cousin. Bai Shuang felt uncomfortable, but she still wanted to see Bai Yueran one last time. She wanted to clarify things before going abroad. Anyway, she didn't want to see these two people again before she felt better. Although she didn't hate them, she just didn't want to see them. Seeing them made her heart ache. Bai Shuang swiped her phone to answer the call. Sister, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Bai Yueran's voice sounded a little depressed from the phone. It was the new year and she just had a boyfriend. Why was she depressed? Bai Shuang thought it was strange but didn't ask. She only continued to ask about her uncle, Bai Jianqing. Is uncle doing well? It's the first day of the Lunar New Year, and I texted uncle to wish him a Happy New Year. Uncle must be very busy today, so I won't disturb him. She was worried that Bai Yueran had come to ask her to spend the new year with the eldest branch of the Bai family, so she stopped her from talking in advance. Bai Yueran smiled and drove to the underground parking lot of Bai Shuang's apartment. I'm free today, so I came to see you. Are you willing to take me in? Sister, what are you saying? Of course I welcome you. But you didn't go out to give New Year's greetings today? Bai Shuang switched her hand to the phone and immediately went to the fridge to see if there was anything to eat. She could make do by herself, but it was embarrassing if Bai Yueran was around. Bai Yueran got out of the car and got into the elevator. She continued to call her. I just came out of the Prime Minister's official residence. Those people are so boring. I really don't get along with the Tans. Bai Shuang knew that her uncle had lost to Tan Dongbang in the Prime Minister election, and she also felt that it was a pity. Whether in terms of ability or experience, her uncle, Bai Jianqing, was 10 streets ahead of Tan Dongbang, who had only been in the cabinet for 2 years. Unfortunately, the Bai family's influence in the media wasn't as strong as the Kai's, so they had been caught off guard during the election. The current situation was really, whoever wins the media wins the world. The Bai family was in the traditional political and business industries, and their business was in the traditional manufacturing industry. The Bai family's influence was greatly lagging behind in the emerging internet and the new media that was derived from the internet. The Kais had quietly occupied half the sky in the new media industry. They were also the leaders of the traditional media industry. The state-owned television stations and the publicity department were all led by the Kais. Bai Shuang had originally served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and was the youngest spokesperson there. The Bai family had originally wanted to use her qualifications in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to enter the media industry after she retired from the ministry and fight for a place for the Bai family. In the end, her father, Bai Yuxing, couldn't think straight and made a huge mistake. Not only did he ruin himself, but he also ruined Bai Shuang's future. She could only resign from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and become unemployed. When Bai Yueran came in, Bai Shuang finally gathered her thoughts and asked with a smile, "What would you like to drink?" "I don't have anything to eat here. We'll eat out later." Bai Yueran raised her eyebrows. "You dare to live alone without food? Do you want to become an immortal?" Bai Shuang smiled and opened the fridge. She took out a box of iced coffee for Bai Yueran and placed it in front of her. "I remember that you like this vanilla-flavored iced coffee." Although it was winter, the central air conditioning in the house had a constant temperature of 25 degrees, so it was still very comfortable to drink iced coffee. Bai Yueran took it and opened the lid to take a sip. She sighed and said, "This New Year's has been really boring. I'm looking forward to going back to work." "How is it boring?" Bai Shuang sat across from her and looked at her openly. "Aren't you together with little Zay? Why don't you go on a date with him?" It was the second watch. "Good night, sweethearts." Chapter 973. Bai Yueran's hand trembled and she looked up at Bai Shuang in surprise. For a moment she was at a loss and murmured, You knew?" Bai Shuang nodded and looked down at the double-ear milk coffee cup in her hand. She said indifferently, "I saw you two kissing in the parking lot." Bai Yueran closed her eyes, feeling extremely awkward. She wanted to wait until after the new year to clarify things with Bai Shuang so that Bai Shuang could have a good new year. She didn't expect Bai Shuang to find out so early. So this was the reason why Bai Shuang had been depressed recently, right? And she insisted on moving out of their house. Bai Yueran sighed and nodded heavily. "Yes, we're together." Bai Shuang's heart sank. Although she already knew the answer, she was still extremely disappointed. She was mentally prepared, but hearing it from her own ears was still a bit unbearable. She held the coffee cup tightly and calmed herself down after a while. If that's the case, why did you encourage me to pursue little Zay? She frowned and looked at Bai Yueran. If you like him and he likes you, what do you mean by doing this? Bai Yueran had always done things in a straightforward manner, but in terms of feelings she really wasn't straightforward enough this time. But who could say for sure when it came to feelings? Who could immediately recognize one's true feelings? Bai Yueran took a deep breath and pursed her lips. She gathered her courage and said, I won't hide it from you. In the beginning, I did think that little Zay didn't quite match my expectations for my other half. I thought I admired him, but not to the extent of falling in love with him. Bai Shuang raised her eyebrows. And then? And then when I found out that you like little Zay so much, I felt that I should still let you try. Bai Yueran raised her hand. I swear at that time I definitely didn't take the initiative toward little Zay, nor did I give him any hints. Bai Shuang looked at Bai Yueran quietly. Although she tried her best to hold it in, her eyes still reddened. She looked up at the small LED lights embedded in the living room ceiling like stars and choked out. Can I believe you? Since young you've always been the person I admire the most. You've always been the other people's daughter, in my parents' words. You're my role model and the goal I've been chasing after. I'm sorry. Bai Yueran also felt bad. She sat next to Bai Shuang and hugged her. Shuang, I never thought of stealing your boyfriend, but little Zay doesn't love you. I was moved by him and fell in love with him. If you want to blame someone, blame me for going back on my word. Bai Shuang's body had been stiff the entire time, and she refused to approach Bai Yueran. She turned her head and straightened her neck. Tears streamed down her face and she wept silently and sorrowfully. Bai Yueran was very understanding of Bai Shuang's feelings. She was also very upset. She owed this younger sister a lot. Her uncle, Bai Yuxing, who was also Bai Shuang's father, had defected and fled the country. Bai Yueran had never regretted reporting him. Although Bai Yuxing was Bai Yueran's relative, everyone had the right to punish him for his treason. But because of her actions, Bai Shuang lost her father. Now because of her, Bai Shuang didn't even have a crush on her. It could be said that the double blow of kinship and love came from her. Bai Yueran felt even more guilty. How can you do this? I've liked him for a long time. I know he also has feelings for me. If you want to reject him, be more resolute. Sister, I'm so upset. I'm so sad. Why did you still come to see me? I really don't want to see you again. Bai Shuang held it in for a long time, and finally burst into tears under Bai Yueran's embrace. It seemed that she wanted to vent all her pain and unwillingness through her tears. Bai Yueran hugged Bai Shuang silently, letting her beat her, reject her, and even scold her. After Bai Shuang vented her anger to her heart's content, she finally felt a little better. She looked at Bai Yueran and saw that her expensive white turtleneck cashmere sweater was a mess from her tears and snot. I'll get you some clothes to change into. Bai Shuang stood up from the sofa and slipped into the bedroom. Bai Yueran looked at herself with a bitter smile, knowing that this cashmere sweater was useless. She sat in the living room for a while, and Bai Shuang came out with a lake green cashmere cardigan. Sister, you can wear this. It's your size, it's a little big for me. Bai Yueran looked up at Bai Shuang and realized that she had lost a lot of weight recently. Shuang. Bai Yueran took the cashmere sweater from her. In the future you will meet better people, people who will truly love you wholeheartedly. Bai Shuang pulled a long face and curled her lips disdainfully. Save your chicken soup for the soul, I don't buy it. Bai Shuang rubbed her eyes that were red and swollen from crying. She sat down on the sofa and said lightly, I'm going to travel abroad tomorrow. Bai Yueran was startled and sat down opposite her with the cashmere sweater. Tomorrow? Why are you going out again? If I don't go abroad, am I supposed to stay here and watch the two of you show off your love every day? I'm afraid I won't be able to resist chopping you up with a knife. Bai Shuang turned her head away in a fit of pique, but the anger in her heart still lingered. Bai Yueran smiled bitterly and shook her head. You don't have to. Little Zay isn't in the country, so how can we show our love to you? Bai Shuang was stunned. He's not in the country? I was wondering why you guys didn't take the opportunity to go on a date during the new year. You even had the time to come here and chat. He's on a mission anyway. Bai Yueran lay back on the sofa and rubbed her temples. Don't ask me where he went. I won't tell you even if I know. I won't ask. Bai Shuang cleaned up the coffee cups on the coffee table and remembered Zhao Liang's call to her just now. She asked casually, then you can chat on the phone, text, or chat. What's there to worry about between lovers? Bai Yueran just shook her head. She also didn't know why little Zay had been sent to a small island where birds didn't even lay eggs. It was questionable whether there was even electricity, so how could he have had the opportunity to chat on the phone, text, or even chat online with her? However, she couldn't tell Bai Shuang about this, so she could only change the subject in the end. After I said goodbye to little Zay in the parking lot that day, I never saw him again and I couldn't get through to him on the phone. I asked Big Xiong and found out that he had gone abroad. Goodbye kiss. That was a goodbye kiss. Bai Shuang's tone still had a hint of resentment and jealousy. Bai Yueran was also very embarrassed, so she could only change the subject again. You're going abroad tomorrow. Have you bought the plane ticket? Where are you going? Bai Shuang pointed to the suitcase in the room. I'm going to Florida in the United States for a while, then I'm going to South America to see the Mayan ruins. I've always wanted to go there, but I haven't been since I lived in Central America for so long. It's quite a pity. This time, I want to go to all the places I've ever wanted to go. Okay, remember to send me postcards and every time you arrive, send me a WeChat message to let me know you're safe, okay? Bai Yueran didn't stop her anymore. She knew that Bai Shuang didn't have the heart to work right now, so going abroad to relax was a good choice. She didn't lack money anyway. Okay. Bai Shuang nodded sullenly. Her parents were now dead and she was traveling overseas alone, so she really had to keep in touch with Bai Yueran. Of course, it was impossible to chat without any ill feelings like before. At least Bai Shuang hadn't completely forgiven Bai Yueran. Bai Yueran also knew that Bai Shuang still had a knot in her heart, so it was impossible to let go of the past immediately. She could only let time dilute all the pain. Bai Yueran sat for a while and helped Bai Shuang pack her things for the trip abroad before leaving. Not long after she left, Bai Shuang heard her phone ring again. She carried the suitcase in one hand and swiped the phone with the other. As soon as she answered the call, she realized that it was actually Zhao Liang's voice. He actually changed his number and called again. Bai Shuang was furious. She simply raised the phone to her ear and said angrily, Zhao Liangza, don't go too far. I've already blocked you. Block me, do you understand? Zhao Liangza's clear voice came from the phone. Shuang, why did you block me? Can't I even say Happy New Year to you? No. Bai Shuang objected without hesitation. Zhao Liangza, don't even think about having a foot in both boats and trying to benefit from both of us. I'm not that despicable. Zhao Liangza was also angry. Bai Shuang, I'm calling to greet you and say sorry to you. What's with your attitude? Do you know how hard it is for me to make a phone call? Don't just quarrel with me. This was the first update. The second update at 7 p.m. was a big one, including an increase of 3,000 monthly tickets. P.S. Thank you to Lavender Mimi for the 10,000 Chidian coins yesterday. Chapter 974. What? You want me to swallow my pride and wish you a happy marriage and have a son soon? I'm telling you I can't do that. Bai Shuang tilted her head and clamped the phone between her ear and shoulder. She continued to quarrel with Zhao Liangza as she tidied up the closet. Since you don't like me and only like my cousin, it's okay. You can like anyone. You have your freedom. I have no problem with that. We were just ordinary friends before anyway. But please don't call me again. Don't text me and don't contact me in any way. Zhao Liangza was stunned. What? I thought we were still friends. No, from the moment you chose Bai Yueran we were no longer friends. We weren't even ordinary friends. Bai Shuang's refusal was loud and decisive. Zhao Liangza didn't expect Bai Shuang to be so determined. Her eyes used to follow him. When she saw him, her eyes would shine, and her whole person would become brilliant. When he saw her like this, his mood would also become very good. This was probably why he was still willing to be friends with her even though he felt that he didn't love Bai Shuang. But when he thought about how her smile was no longer brilliant and her eyes no longer sparkled because of his actions, Zhao Liangza felt indescribable heartache and sadness. He had finally found the person he loved, so he should be happy and even ecstatic. But Zhao Liangza knew that ever since the day he kissed Bai Yueran and was caught by Bai Shuang, his mind was filled with Bai Shuang's crying eyes. Fortunately, Hua Xiaoheng had sent him to this small, uninhabited island. Half a month of hard work had left him with no time to think about personal issues. Almost 20 hours of high-intensity work a day had polished the fair and handsome Zhao Liangza into a bronze-skinned, fit man. He was still very handsome, but he was no longer as scholarly as he used to be. Now he truly looked like a soldier. He rushed and finally set up the first signal tower and cell phone base station on the first day of the new year, successfully establishing a connection with the Nandu satellite navigation and communication system. However, the power generation device on the island hadn't been set up yet. They used a temporary diesel generator. Apart from supplying the signal station and cell phone base station as well as work computers, there was almost no power left. This time it was the day before the Spring Festival. The Marines sent them a lot of supplies, so they had the opportunity to use the power provided by the diesel generator to contact their families in China. Because everyone's allocated time was limited, everyone only called the people they cared about the most. Married people call their wives and children. Unmarried people call their parents and lovers. Zhao Yangzi's first reaction was to call Bai Shuang. Unexpectedly, not only did Bai Shuang not pick up his call, but she also blocked his number. If it weren't for his discipline, Zhao Yangzi would have hacked into Bai Shuang's phone and pulled his number from the blacklist. Unfortunately, he did not dare to do so. Later, he borrowed someone else's phone to make a call, and Bai Shuang accidentally picked up the call. But how was this talking? It was clearly a quarrel. Zhao Yangzi held his stopwatch and tried to reason with Bai Shuang. Bai Shuang, I've already apologized. Do you have to be so cruel? Bai Shuang felt that Zhao Yangzi was being unreasonable. She had already embarrassed herself enough. Did he want her to continue embarrassing herself? Zhao Yangzi, fine, I accept your apology, okay? Now let's go our separate ways. The road leads to the sky and we each go our separate ways. We don't want to see each other again in this life. I beg you, let me go. Believe me, without me as a friend, you won't lose anything in your life. Bai Shuang was also very annoyed. She randomly pulled out a few clothes from the closet, threw them into the suitcase and locked it with a bang. Zhao Yangzi heard something wrong with Bai Shuang's voice and couldn't help asking, Bai Shuang, what are you doing? Packing my luggage. I'm going abroad tomorrow. Don't call me again. I won't use this number again. Bai Shuang pressed the speaker button and threw the phone on the bedside table. Going abroad? Where are you going? Zhao Yangzi didn't know why he was so nervous. My number won't change. If you encounter any difficulties outside, you can call me. Call you? I don't even know where you are. Do you think I have nothing better to do? If it's an emergency, wouldn't it delay me? Bai Shuang rejected Zhao Yangzi without hesitation. Zhao Yangzi hesitated for a while and remembered Hua Xiaoheng's instructions. He summoned his courage and said to Bai Shuang, do you know that when I saw you leave crying that day, I was very sad? I drank a lot and then accidentally said a few words to make Hua Xiao unhappy. I was sent to this place where even birds don't lay eggs. I don't have electricity or water here. Everything has to be resupplied. I really don't have much time to argue with you. Bai Shuang was stunned. She looked at the phone and asked suspiciously, what did you say? You were sent to a deserted place because you talked back to Hua Xiao? No way. Hua Xiao isn't that kind of person. Zhao Yangzi couldn't describe how he felt when he heard Bai Shuang almost unconditionally trust Hua Xiaoheng. He only felt a little sour and muttered, that's the truth. You can ask Big Xiong if you don't believe me. But forget it, I'm not saying this to make you sympathize with me. I just want to make it clear that I really didn't mean to make you sad. I'm sorry. Although Bai Shuang didn't know exactly what Zhao Yangzi was doing, she knew the nature of the Special Operations Forces. Since Zhao Yangzi had angered Hua Xiaoheng, it was obvious where he would be sent to. It could be any remote and desolate place. Bai Shuang bit her lip and stood up to pick up the phone. She said to Zhao Yangzi, okay, I got it. You don't have to feel guilty. Work hard and don't waste your precious time on me. Call your parents or my cousin. It's better than calling me. Zhao Yangzi was startled and thought to himself that he should have called them first. Why did he call Bai Shuang instead? Not only did he call her, but he also persisted. Zhao Yangzi was also frightened by his own thoughts. His breathing was a little rapid and he couldn't speak for a moment. Bai Shuang waited for a while. Seeing that Zhao Yangzi didn't speak, she nodded. Okay, I'll hang up. Zhao Yangzi quickly said, Happy New Year. Bai Shuang hesitated. You too. Zhao Yangzi said, you have to be more careful when you're abroad alone. There are many perverted foreigners. The corners of Bai Shuang's mouth twitched. I'm not a little girl who doesn't leave the house, but thank you for the reminder. After a pause, Bai Shuang hurriedly said, You take care too. Be careful. She quickly hung up the phone. She clutched her chest and found that her heart was beating very hard. No, she couldn't go on like this. Bai Shuang pulled out the SIM card and found a pair of high heels. She smashed the SIM card with the sharp soles of her shoes. Zhao Yangzi stared blankly at his phone. It was just a simple, perfunctory, polite sentence, but his mood suddenly improved. It was like the dark clouds in the sky had suddenly dispersed and the sun was shining. Spring had returned. He felt full of energy. Even the silver-gray plastic bucket used to catch rainwater looked so pleasing to the eye. It was noon at General G's house on the first day of the new year. It was time for lunch. As usual, General G hosted everyone for a meal. There were 2 long tables in the spacious dining room. The big shots sat at one table with their wives or children, while their subordinates and attendants sat at another table. They were all divided up. Gu Nianji originally wanted to sit at the other table with her subordinates. However, Hua Xiaoheng walked over and pulled her over. "Nianji, General G wants to talk to you." Gu Nianji had no choice but to follow him over and sit next to him. On Gu Nianji's other side was General G. On General G's other side was his wife. On Hua Xiaoheng's other side was Speaker Long. Speaker Long didn't bring his wife or children to General G's house for New Year's greetings. He came alone and only brought Special Assistant Yang as an attendant. Therefore, the tables on both sides were clearly divided. The other attendants didn't have any objections to Gu Nianji sitting at the host's table and eating at the same table as the leaders. After all, everyone served their own masters and didn't care about the small differences in seating. Moreover, General G's house was a family banquet, not a state banquet. General G said he wanted to talk to Gu Nianji, so it was only right for him to give her preferential treatment and call her over for a meal. He held back his indignation. Only Special Assistant Yang didn't feel good. Although he sat at the attendant's table, his eyes never left the host's table. General G smiled and chatted with Gu Nianji for a while before getting to the main topic. "Nianji, I heard you graduated early?" "Yes." Gu Nianji tilted her head with a smile. "I just graduated. The graduation ceremony won't be held until July." "Oh, then have you considered where to work after graduation?" General G looked at Gu Nianji very warmly and pointed to the 4 dishes on her plate. "Try my chef's signature dishes. The upper left corner is Shao Tian pastry, which is actually stir-fried shredded deer meat and chicken shredded. The upper right corner is roasted prawn, which is actually grilled prawn. The lower left corner is fresh sprouts and the lower right corner is dessert. I specially asked the chef to make this cheese with cherries. I heard they're all ancient dishes. I hope you like them." Gu Nianji quickly glanced at everyone. Everyone had a 4-compartment lunchbox in front of them, and there was a small round lunchbox in the middle with dipping sauces. The 4 dishes in front of everyone were different, probably made according to everyone's preferences. It was obvious that everyone was very happy and satisfied as they ate. Of course, it could also be an act. In any case, the big shot's acting skills were already superb. Gu Nianji felt like she was an ordinary person, so she wasn't as scheming as these big shots, and her acting skills weren't as good as theirs. She looked away and nodded to General G with a smile. "Thank you, General G. I like these dishes very much." She took a bite of roasted prawn and swallowed before saying to General G, "I haven't considered where to work for now. I'll think about it after the Lunar New Year." She was currently considered an official employee of the largest law firm in the United States, but she didn't plan to work in the United States, so she would probably have to quit this job. Or if the largest law firm in the United States opened a branch in the Huaxia Empire, she would consider staying there. "You haven't decided yet? That's good, that's good." General G happily slapped the table. "Come, my office just happens to be lacking a legal consultant. If you're willing, I'll ask Secretary Chow." "Old G, what are you talking about? You can't poach my people anymore." Speaker Long had been patiently listening on the side, planning to wait for General G to finish speaking before he spoke. He didn't expect General G to bring it up before he could even speak. Speaker Long anxiously pushed Hua Xiaoheng. "Xiaoheng, move aside. I have something to say to Nianji." 2 of the 3 highest-ranking people in the empire both favored Gu Nianji, so of course Hua Xiaoheng was happy. However, he didn't show it at all. He politely stood up and gave up his seat. "Speaker Long, please." Speaker Long unceremoniously sat in Hua Xiaoheng's previous seat and surrounded Gu Nianji with General G on both sides. Hua Xiaoheng was tall and stalwart. As soon as he stood up, he was a particularly obvious target. The attendants immediately noticed the commotion here. One of the military's attendants quietly nudged Special Assistant Yang and said with a smile, "Look, your Speaker Long really thinks highly of Miss Gu." Special Assistant Yang squinted his eyes and smiled. "Our speaker is very fond of talents and likes to cast a wide net. Not only Miss Gu but also Miss Kai. She is also an important candidate for our speaker's consideration." "Understood. Ah, come, let's drink." The attendant laughed and toasted with Special Assistant Yang. Speaker Long had already spoken to Gu Nianji directly. "Nianji, to be honest, you are a professional in law. It's a waste of your talent to go to the military. There is no position for a lawyer there. Look at Director Bai. He is also a smart and capable person, but now he has to deal with paperwork every day. He can't show off his talents in court at all. You are so suitable for court arguments. You should really consider our Senate. General G was so angry that he wanted to roll up his sleeves and fight. Old Long. That's enough. What's wrong with our military legal department? It's not like we can't go to court. Nianji, let me tell you, it's fine if you like to go to court. Our military is lacking a talent like you. Let me tell you, we don't know how many cases we need to fight, and they are all cases in the International Court of Justice. Unfortunately, we don't have enough manpower, so it's been delayed for several years. I'm so anxious. Gu Nianji suddenly became interested when she heard that they were going to the International Court of Justice. Really? I don't think I've heard about these cases in the media. Why would these be reported in the media? They have to be kept secret. General G saw that Gu Nianji's interest had been piqued. He smiled widely and looked like a kind grandfather. Hua Xiaoheng pursed his lips and silently ate a mouthful of roasted beef loin. Speaker Long became even more anxious. He even grabbed Gu Nianji's arm and said earnestly, Nianji, we study law, so we have to plan for our careers in the long term. Of course, lawsuits are important, but what's more important is whether every lawsuit we fight will be helpful to our career development in the future. That makes sense. Gu Nianji nodded and picked up the juice in front of her to take a sip. It was her favorite coconut juice. Hua Xiaoheng must have poured it for her. Gu Nianji glanced at Hua Xiaoheng and saw that he was drinking liquor with a high alcohol content. The combination of liquor and roasted beef loin was quite special. Gu Nianji looked away and listened to Speaker Long's words with delight. Nianji, you think it makes sense too, right? So those lawsuits in the International Court of Justice won't help much in your career planning. You can come to the Senate Secretariat as the chief legal advisor. In 3 years, I promise you can be elected as a member of the Senate. With your aptitude, you will be my successor in the future. Speaker Long finished speaking and smiled proudly at General G as if saying, You're the only one with a successor? I have it too. With a smug look, General G smiled and raised a pair of white eyebrows. He drawled, Old Long, aren't you going too far? Aren't you embarrassed to paint such a big picture for a young girl who just graduated from school? Why should I be embarrassed? Every word I say is from the bottom of my heart. Speaker Long waved his arms. His chubby face was flushed, making him look even more youthful and vigorous. Nianji, don't listen to him. Old Long came from a political career and is good at going back on his word. I'm different. I'm a soldier and you grew up with soldiers. Of course, you know that although we don't talk much, we mean what we say. We never exaggerate and we always do what we say. General G continued to undermine Speaker Long's authority, which made Speaker Long furious. Old G, you just want to go against me, right? I'm not going against you, but I'm a talented person. Everyone loves her. So what? You're allowed to paint a picture, but I'm not allowed to recruit her? What right do you have to say that I'm painting a picture, and you're recruiting her? Speaker Long was really angry. I can make a military pledge. As long as Nianji goes to the Senate Secretariat, I will protect her all the way and will definitely train her as a successor. Speaker Long's voice was so loud that everyone in the room heard it. Everyone joined in and expressed that they were willing to be witnesses. These people were all famous military leaders. If they volunteered to be witnesses, it would be no different from Speaker Long making a military pledge. General G suppressed the joy in his heart and gave Hua Xiaoheng a look that said, You know me. Hua Xiaoheng was calm, and his expression didn't change at all. Only Special Assistant Yang's expression changed. He understood that the thing he feared the most had finally come. This was the second chapter, which was 4,800 words long and included 3,000 monthly votes. Chapter 975. Don't be nervous, don't be nervous, don't lose your composure. Special Assistant Yang kept mentally preparing himself. After all, he was someone who had worked in the Senate for more than a decade. Step by step, he went from a fledgling assistant secretary to the current special assistant. He had climbed to where he was today completely by himself, and no one could take anything away from him. Special Assistant Yang finally calmed down. He pushed his gold-rimmed glasses up the bridge of his nose and smiled slightly. He clinked glasses with the person next to him. See? This is our Speaker Long's charm. After lunch, everyone left in 2s and 3s and rushed to the next place to visit. General G took the opportunity to call Hua Xiaoheng to his study. Xiaoheng, has Nianji decided where to work yet? General G asked quietly. Will she be willing to go to the Senate? General G was truly worried sick about Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji. Because of Gu Nianji's identity, Even if she joined the military, her future in the military would be very limited. Moreover, even if she didn't join the military, General Ji knew that with Hua Xiaoheng around, Gu Nianji would definitely do her part as long as the military needed her. Therefore, he had no intention of forcing Gu Nianji to work in the military. From the beginning to the end, the target he had chosen for Gu Nianji was the Senate. This was also for Hua Xiaoheng's sake. The senior members of the Senate were elected, so there was no conflict with the cabinet or the military. However, the cabinet was not a good place for Gu Nianji. Because of Gu Yanran, Gu Nianji had probably already offended Prime Minister Tan. Prime Minister Tan still had at least 5 years left in office. After 5 years, if he successfully ran for re-election, that would be 10 years. How many decades of a person's career could be wasted? Therefore, Gu Nianji would definitely not enter the cabinet. Then she only had 2 ways out. One was to continue working in a professional law firm and become her own lawyer. The other was to enter the Senate and advance to the senior members. However, to enter the senior members of the Senate, in addition to having the ability to run for office, she also needed a strong person like Speaker Long to protect her. General Ji had initially asked Secretary Chao to publicly express his interest in recruiting Gu Nianji in order to attract Speaker Long's attention to Gu Nianji's talents and abilities. Then he would pretend to compete with Speaker Long to further increase Gu Nianji's value. Hua Xiaoheng was well aware of General Ji's little scheme. Although he didn't interfere either. General Ji, I respect Nianji's opinion on this matter. You know, young as she is, she has always had her own ideas. If she wants to do something, I can't stop her. I can't force her to do something she doesn't want to do. Is that so? General Ji looked at him with a smile and clasped his hands behind his back. Xiaoheng, this isn't like you. You're already husband and wife. Doesn't she listen to you on everything? Hua Xiaoheng chuckled. General Ji, please don't make fun of me. Marriage is an expedient plan, you must keep it a secret for me. I know. General Ji rubbed the back of his head. I'll be waiting for the day of your wedding. I'll definitely give you a huge red packet then. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. I'll definitely ask General Ji to be our witness when the time comes. The two of them talked about work arrangements before letting Hua Xiaoheng out. Speaker Long took advantage of Hua Xiaoheng's absence to lobby Gu Nianji again. Nianji, think about it carefully. Really, I'm very sincere in inviting you. The position of Chief Legal Counsel of the Senate Secretariat is currently vacant. As long as you agree, I'll definitely do my best to train you. Speaker Long was completely sincere with Gu Nianji and was wholeheartedly trying to recruit her. Gu Nianji knew that Speaker Long's words were mixed with lies, but politicians were all like this. As a lawyer, she sometimes spoke half-truths to her clients, so she didn't care. She just couldn't make up her mind. Just as Speaker Long said, her career choice was closely related to her career plan. This would determine what kind of person she would be for the next 5 or 10 years, what kind of person she would become, and what kind of status she would have. And in her selfish heart, she wanted to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Hua Xiaoheng as soon as possible. With her background, if she wanted to achieve a similar position as Hua Xiaoheng in the Huaxia Empire, she could only achieve her goal by entering the military, the Senate, or the cabinet. She would definitely not be able to rise to the same position as Hua Xiaoheng in the military, even if it was a few ranks lower. Because of Hua Xiaoheng, she would always be in a state of balance. Although she was willing to help the military as a career plan, joining the military and entering General Ji's office wasn't a very good way out. As for the cabinet, there was no need to even mention it. Tan Dongbang still had to be the prime minister for 5 years. Even if she could enter the cabinet, she would be sitting on the bench for at least 5 years. So the cabinet was definitely out. Then the only option was the Senate. The Senate wasn't like the cabinet or the military. In the Senate, family background wasn't very important, and the background check wasn't as strict as the other two systems. As long as one had the ability, this was the best place for young people to excel. Gu Nianji was somewhat biased towards Speaker Long's Senate. However, she wouldn't agree right away. Gu Nianji still wanted to ask for He Jichu's opinion when he returned from the new year. Therefore, Gu Nianji very sincerely said to Speaker Long, "Speaker Long, thank you for your favor and support. I will definitely consider it carefully. Okay, don't think about it for too long. Our Senate Secretariat will start the recruitment process after the new year. If you have decided, give me a call and I will fill out the recommendation form for you." Speaker Long was indeed very considerate. Gu Nianji quickly thanked him and watched Speaker Long get into the car. Special Assistant Yang got into the car behind Speaker Long. Before getting into the car, he politely nodded to Gu Nianji and said, "Miss Gu, that's great. We might be colleagues." Gu Nianji curled her lips. Yes, what an honor. Special Assistant Yang said seriously, Miss Gu, you must work hard. Actually, between you and Miss Kai, I would prefer Miss Gu to get this position. I think that as colleagues, Miss Gu is easier to get along with than Miss Kai. Miss Kai? Gu Nianji blinked. Which Miss Kai are you talking about? Miss Kai Shengnan. Special Assistant Yang smiled. Speaker Long also appreciates her and had already internally decided on her as the chief legal advisor of our secretariat. Now that Miss Gu has suddenly emerged, Miss Kai will have to work even harder. Oh? Internally decided? Gu Nianji wanted to back out. Then I won't join in the fun, okay? It's okay, it wasn't internally decided. I mean, if Miss Gu wasn't there, Miss Kai would have been internally decided. Now that Miss Gu is obviously more capable than Miss Kai, of course Miss Kai won't be internally decided. You all have to participate in the assessment. Good luck. I have high hopes for you. Special Assistant Yang patted Gu Nianji's shoulder as he spoke before turning to get into the car. Speaker Long waved at Gu Nianji from the car. Gu Nianji smiled and waved back as she watched Speaker Long's car drive away. In the car, Speaker Long asked Special Assistant Yang with a smile, You're quite familiar with Gu Nianji? You seem to be chatting happily. It's all right. You asked me to sit in on her estate dispute lawsuit, so we're familiar with each other. Special Assistant Yang had always been very polite and generous in front of Speaker Long. He didn't compete or get jealous, so Speaker Long appreciated and trusted him very much. Originally, everyone thought that Special Assistant Yang would be Speaker Long's successor. Even Special Assistant Yang himself thought so. However, what Speaker Long said in front of so many big shots today made Special Assistant Yang realize that he had been overthinking things. Speaker Long's successor had never been considered for him. Speaker Long's car drove away, but Gu Nianji still stood at the entrance of General Ji's courtyard and looked thoughtfully at the road in the distance. Hua Xiaoheng came to stand beside her for a while. Did you have a good chat with Speaker Long? Gu Nianji looked up at him and smiled. It was all right. Speaker Long was very enthusiastic. Speaker Long has been the Speaker of the Senate for more than 30 years. His words are very infectious. As Hua Xiaoheng spoke to her, he heard a call coming in through his Bluetooth headset. It was a call from his father, Hua Guanchen. Hua Xiaoheng thought that it was the first day of the Lunar New Year, so he still answered the call. This was because he noticed that Hua Guanchen, as a member of the Standing Committee of the Military Supreme Council, didn't come to General Ji's house for New Year's greetings. Logically speaking, Hua Guanchen should have come. He used to come every year, but he didn't know why he didn't come this year. This was the first time. Chapter 976. Happy New Year, General Hua. Hua Xiaoheng greeted Hua Guanchen politely. Hua Guanchen's voice sounded a little tired from the Bluetooth headset. Xiaoheng, today is the first day of the new year. Are you going home? Hua Xiaoheng actually didn't want to go back, but Hua Guanchen's words seemed to have other intentions. Is grandfather okay? Hua Xiaoheng asked casually. Not so good. Yesterday on New Year's Eve, because there was no one at home, he threw a tantrum. This morning he found out that his mouth was crooked. The doctor from the military hospital just left. He said he had a small stroke. Hua Guanchen was very worried. The old man is getting on in years. He just wants to be lively during the new year. Come back and see your grandfather. Hua Xiaoheng nodded calmly. I'll be right back. I still have 2 hours of free time. I'll go home and pay my New Year's greetings before going back to work. Hua Xiaoheng ended the call and turned to look at Gu Nianji. I'm going back to the Hua family for New Year's greetings. Can you come with me? Gu Nianji actually didn't want to go, but when she saw the faint hope in Hua Xiaoheng's eyes, the words of refusal lingered on the tip of her tongue and turned into okay. Hua Xiaoheng's eyes suddenly brightened, and a smile appeared on his lips. His handsome face was like a still black and white landscape painting that had suddenly come to life. In an instant, it was like the first light of spring, and it was too beautiful to behold. Gu Nianji looked away and followed Hua Xiaoheng to the car they had driven here. I'll drive. Gu Nianji extended her hand to Hua Xiaoheng. Give me the keys. Hua Xiaoheng had drunk alcohol today, and Gu Nianji didn't want to call the chauffeur at this time, so she decided to be the chauffeur herself. Hua Xiaoheng put his hands in his trouser pockets and looked at her quietly. His deep eyes seemed to speak and were full of inquiry. Gu Nianji smiled and said, I'm your nurse today. Of course a nurse has to go all out. Hua Xiaoheng took out the car keys and placed them in Gu Nianji's hand. The two of them opened the doors on both sides and got into the car. Gu Nianji sat in the driver's seat while Hua Xiaoheng sat in the passenger seat. Those who originally thought that they were broken saw this scene and dispelled their doubts one after another. Everyone thought that the relationship between the two was still unusual, so they didn't really believe that the two had broken up. Moreover, everyone could see that although Hua Xiaoheng claimed to have injured his arm, he had no problems eating and drinking, let alone driving. But this time Hua Xiaoheng actually asked Gu Nianji to be his chauffeur. This was enough to show that Hua Xiaoheng didn't value Gu Nianji that much. At most it was a one-night stand. In any case Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji were both single. Whether it was a romantic relationship or a hookup, there was no problem and no mistake. Of course, Gu Nianji couldn't be bothered to argue with these people. She had already seen through them. It didn't matter what others thought of her. What was important was whether she could stand up on her own. Gu Nianji really liked her career plan. It would allow her to quickly reach the pinnacle of her career, and then she could marry a tall, rich and handsome man. The Hua family's compound was in the same military compound as General Ji's, but in the opposite direction. If he wanted to walk there he could, but it would take more than 20 minutes. Therefore Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji still drove there. After driving for 7 or 8 minutes, they arrived at the Hua family's iron gate. Different from General Ji's antique courtyard, the Hua family's building was a small Western-style building with 2 large iron gates in front. Hua Xiaoheng pointed for Gu Nianji to park the car on a small road near the Hua residence. Then they got out and walked to the Hua family's gate. The soldier on duty at the gate recognized Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji, so he immediately saluted Hua Xiaoheng. "Happy New Year, Chief." Hua Xiaoheng nodded. "Happy New Year. Thank you for your hard work." Gu Nianji purposely walked half a step behind so she wouldn't have to accept the soldier's salute. She wasn't a military personnel and didn't have the right to accept a military salute. Gu Nianji respected soldiers very much. Whether they were generals or private soldiers, they were all the same to her. Following Hua Xiaoheng to the entrance of the Hua family's living room, Gu Nianji felt very emotional. What happened on New Year's Eve last year was still vivid in her mind. Coming back here today it actually felt like a lifetime ago. Hua Xiaoheng's expression was very calm as he strode ahead of Gu Nianji. When they entered the living room they discovered that there were actually a few guests there. On the pearl gray 3-piece sofa in the living room, Hua Guanchen sat on one side and Tan Guoren, Kai Xingnan, and Mrs. Tan Kai Songyin sat across from him. Hua Xiaoheng knew that he had fallen into his father's trap again. However, since he had already come in, it would be very rude to turn around and leave in front of these people. Hua Xiaoheng's professional habit was never to be rude in public. Even if he was embarrassing people he had to be elegant and decent. He couldn't use any vulgarities when cursing, or else it would be tarnishing his identity. He walked over with a faint smile and greeted all the guests in the living room. "Happy New Year, everyone." He then asked his father, Hua Guanchen, "General Hua, where's grandfather?" Hua Guanchen saw that Hua Xiaoheng didn't even call him father in front of the guests and felt a bit embarrassed. He said with a fierce expression, "Who are you talking to? How impudent." Tan Guoren saw this and immediately smiled. "Uncle Hua, don't say that. Hua Xiao calls you general out of respect and intimacy." "I can hear respect, but where does intimacy come from? Cousin, you can't be so biased." Kai Xingnan clapped her hands and smiled as she continued. She looked very eager to learn and even winked at Tan Guoren. Tan Guoren blushed slightly and said softly, "Nowadays many young people and children like to call their parents like that. They don't call them mom and dad but by their names and honorifics. I think it's much more intimate than calling them mom and dad." "That's a way of saying it." Hua Guanchen laughed immediately and had an even better impression of Tan Guoren. He looked somewhat similar to Hua Xiaoheng and had also been the flower of the military in the past. Although he was getting on in years, he was still very handsome when he wasn't pulling a long face. Even the knowledgeable Kai Xingnan was dazed when she saw Hua Guanchen's smile. "Miss Tan is really good with words." Hua Guanchen was very polite to Tan Guoren and turned to look at Kai Songyin. "Mrs. Tan has been raised well." Last time, Song Jining had clearly expressed that she didn't want Tan Guoren to be her daughter-in-law. Kai Songyin had originally been very angry and felt that Song Jining's words in public were completely uncultured. It was only after Hua Guanchen very sincerely apologized to her and Prime Minister Tan that she forgave them. Of course, this forgiveness was completely because of Tan Guoren. If they hadn't seen that Tan Guoren loved Hua Xiaoheng, they would have blacklisted the Hua family at any time. As the Prime Minister of the cabinet, Tan Dongbang had already established himself in the cabinet after surviving the impeachment. Kai Songyin believed that nothing could shake their family's position, so she wasn't as respectful and fawning over the Hua family as before. Moreover, the Kai family controlled the media industry, so it was too easy to smear an entire family. Any random topic could make the Hua family the center of attention. However, now that Tan Dongbang had just escaped the misfortune of being impeached, Kai Songyin didn't want to make too many enemies for now. Because of these reasons, she didn't argue with the Hua family. If Tan Guirin hadn't heard that Hua Xiaoheng was injured and insisted on seeing him today, Kai Songyin wouldn't have stepped foot in the Hua family's front door. She had her pride. Okay, I still have things to do at the Prime Minister's residence, so I'll leave first. Kai Songyin sent Tan Guirin there and planned to go back. She said to Kai Xingnan, Xingnan, your cousin is pure and kind. She's no match for those with ulterior motives. Help me look after her and don't let anyone bully her. Tan Guirin blushed and rubbed her hands uncomfortably. Mommy, don't say that. No one will bully me here. Kai Xingnan promised, little auntie, don't worry. I'll definitely protect my cousin. Hua Guanchen also stood up. Mrs. Tan, don't you want to have a simple meal before you leave? No need. The Prime Minister's residence can't do without me. Kai Songyin smiled reservedly. Her fair face was full of grace and elegance. When she walked past Gu Nianji, Kai Songyin paused and said with a smile, Miss Gu, right? If our Guirin offends you in any way, I hope Miss Gu will be magnanimous and not stoop to her level. She's been spoiled since she was young and has never been in contact with society. She's pure and doesn't have any bad intentions. Gu Nianji chuckled. Mrs. Tan's words are contradictory. If your Miss Guirin is pure and doesn't have any bad intentions, then why would she offend me? You also know that I have no one to rely on, so I never make things difficult for others unless they take the initiative to make things difficult for me. Kai Songyin's expression changed and she snorted. You only know how to use your glib tongue. It was the second watch. Good night, sweethearts. Chapter 977. Glib talk is my job, Mrs. Tan. Isn't your husband the same as well, Prime Minister Tan? How did he become Prime Minister if he doesn't have a glib tongue? Gu Nianji had never regarded being a quiet person as a virtue. To her, if she didn't agree with something, she would retort. If she was happy, she would say a few more words. In short, she wouldn't lose out. Kai Songyin was furious and was about to say, How dare you compare yourself to the Prime Minister? Hua Xiaoheng already looked over and bowed slightly with a hint of warning in his eyes. He said calmly, Mrs. Tan, please don't be disrespectful. This sentence was a resounding slap to Kai Songyin's face. It slapped all of Kai Songyin's sarcasm back. Disrespectful? Disrespectful. Calling her old? How dare he call her old? She wasn't even 50 years old. Kai Songyin's face flushed from Hua Xiaoheng's words, and her arms trembled. However, Hua Xiaoheng said it so politely that she couldn't find any fault with him. She couldn't even complain about him. Mommy, don't be like this. Miss Gu is a very nice person. She won't bully me. You should go back first. Tan Guirin blushed and quickly came over to help Kai Songyin out. Kai Songyin finally calmed down when she got into the car. She held Tan Guirin's hand and wanted to say something but stopped herself. Tan Guirin smiled. Mommy, I know. Don't be angry. I don't have any other intentions. I just want to stay for a while and then go back. Kai Songyin sighed and murmured, A grown son can't be controlled by a mother. You have to be careful. With that, she left the Hua residence in the Prime Minister's official car and returned to the Prime Minister's official residence to host a banquet. Kai Songyin sighed and murmured, Mothers can't control children when they grow up. Be careful. With that, she left the Hua residence in the Prime Minister's private car and returned to the Prime Minister's official residence for the banquet. She looked at Kai Xingnan inquiringly and slowly sat down next to her. Kai Xingnan smiled. Major General Hua went upstairs to see his grandfather. Miss Gu also followed him. Hua Guanchen nodded. Thank you for your concern. Xiaoheng's grandfather wasn't feeling well last night. Xiaoheng was originally on duty today but I called him back. Tan Guirin and Kai Xingnan were sitting in the living room of the Hua residence. Seeing that Hua Xiaoheng wasn't coming down, they were too embarrassed to chase after him. Tan Guirin took out the special medicine she had brought and handed it to Hua Guanchen. General Hua, I heard that Major General Hua's arm is injured. This is the best medicine in the world for treating electric burns. Please help us give it to Major General Hua. Hua Guanchen smiled and shook his head. Miss Tan, you can ask Xiaoheng yourself if he needs it. But in his heart he was thinking, is Xiaoheng injured? I didn't notice it just now. My mommy spoke too harshly today. I'm worried that Major General Hua won't be happy. Tan Guirin continued, Actually, I wanted to explain to Major General Hua in person that my mommy is a very very nice person. It's just that she cares too much about me. I really didn't mean anything else. Upstairs in Hua Xiaoheng's grandfather Hua Xuanong's suite, Hua Jialan was briefing Hua Xiaoheng about Hua Xuanong's situation. Last night, when I was staying up for Chinese New Year's Eve, I suddenly couldn't speak. I called the doctor over and gave him an injection. If it doesn't work, we might have to perform surgery. It sounded pretty serious. Gu Nianji quietly retreated and stood at the door of Hua Xuanong's suite. She didn't have any feelings for Hua Xuanong and didn't want to pretend to be filial inside. If Hua Xiaoheng hadn't signaled her to follow him with his eyes, she would have rather watched Tan Guiren and Kai Xingnan's performance downstairs. Hua Xiaoheng learned about Hua Xuanong's condition inside and called the doctor to confirm if Hua Jialan and Hua Guanchen were telling the truth. Gu Nianji was bored, so she paced back and forth in the hallway and counted the window panes. Not long after, Hua Guanchen brought Tan Guiren and Kai Xingnan upstairs. Seeing Gu Nianji pacing alone in the hallway, Kai Xingnan smiled slightly and thought to herself that it seemed like they had really broken up. However, Gu Nianji didn't give up and was still pestering Hua Xiaoheng. Tan Guiren sympathized with Gu Nianji. They were both deeply in love with Hua Xiaoheng, so she must feel terrible being ignored by such an outstanding man, right? Only Hua Guanchen ignored Gu Nianji and completely pretended she didn't exist. He only said politely to Tan Guiren, "Miss Tan, Xiaoheng's grandfather is recuperating here. Xiaoheng is also here. Please come in and talk." Hua Guanchen brought Tan Guiren into Hua Xuanong's suite. When they entered, Hua Xiaoheng had just put down the phone. He confirmed Hua Xuanong's condition and asked the doctor there to fax a copy of the medical records to Chen Lai. He planned to discuss it with Chen Lai when he returned to the base. He looked up to see Hua Guanchen enter with Tan Guiren. Before Hua Guanchen and Tan Guiren could speak, Hua Xiaoheng said dryly, "General Hua, I don't have any objections no matter who you remarry. You don't have to ask for my opinion either. It's fine as long as the military approves. I'm still very busy. Goodbye." Hua Guanchen was furious. "What the hell are you talking about? When did I say I was going to remarry? Isn't General Hua bringing a woman home to remarry?" Hua Xiaoheng put his hands in his trouser pockets and slowly walked out the door. Tan Guiren was so embarrassed that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. She said anxiously, "Major General Hua, don't misunderstand. There's nothing going on between your father and me. I came here today to see you. I heard you were injured, so I brought you the best medicine in the world for treating electric burns." As she spoke, she was about to hand the medicine over. The corners of Hua Xiaoheng's mouth twitched. He said calmly, "I don't know who it is. Please don't take it personally." "Xiaoheng, stop right there." Hua Guanchen couldn't help but growl. "Is this how you treat your guests?" Hua Xiaoheng stopped in his tracks but didn't turn around. He only said calmly, "General Hua, this is your guest, your home. She's not my guest, my home." With that, he strode out. When Hua Guanchen brought Tan Guiren into Hua Xuanong's suite, Kai Xingnan didn't follow. Instead, she crossed her arms in front of her chest and stood in the hallway, looking Gu Nianji up and down with interest. Was she trying to see whose eyes were bigger? Not to be outdone, Gu Nianji looked back with a smile and also looked Kai Xingnan up and down. Although Kai Xingnan was 8 or 9 years older than Gu Nianji, with Gu Nianji's composure and experience, Kai Xingnan's mental fortitude wasn't any better than Gu Nianji's. She finally couldn't take it anymore. Raising her eyebrows, she asked, "Miss Gu, isn't it rude to look at others like that? It's impolite not to reciprocate. You look at me, so how can I not look back at you?" Gu Nianji ran her hand through her shoulder-length hair. She spoke casually. "Miss Gu, only people with low self-esteem would be armed to the teeth. Every time someone says something to you, you have to return it with 10. Not only is this childish, but it's also ungentlemanly." Kai Xingnan stopped in front of Gu Nianji. "Right, Miss Gu? Actually, your family background isn't too bad. Just don't think about things that don't belong to you. My cousin is prettier than you, has a better family background, and is more talented than you. Also, can't you see that everyone in the Hua family accepts her and not you?" Gu Nianji frowned slightly. "Miss Kai, are you really a partner of the second largest law firm in the United States? Did you get there with your own abilities?" Kai Xingnan was confused by Gu Nianji's question. Weren't they talking about Gu Nianji and Tan Guiren fighting over Hua Xiaoheng? Why were they talking about her status as a partner? "Of course. Did you think I worked abroad all these years for nothing?" Kai Xingnan raised her chin. Her short, curly hair that clung to her scalp made her look very capable and playful. "I really think that your status as a partner doesn't live up to your name. I suspect that they're doing it for your father's sake. Gu Nianji didn't hesitate to attack Kai Xingnan's most important thing. Because you give me the feeling that you're too lowly. You don't look like a professional lawyer at all. Shut up. Kai Xingnan began to speak English in anger. You're insulting and slandering me. I can go to court and sue you. That's more like it. Gu Nianji clapped her hands with a smile. Show me your legal literacy. Don't be like a gossipy old woman who only knows how to make a fuss about relationships. It's none of your business who I'm close to or who your cousin is close to. Please put away your sinister intentions and perverted face. It makes me want to puke. Kai Xingnan finally understood how her aunt Kai Songyin had felt just now. She repeatedly took deep breaths and told herself not to get angry. She didn't want to stoop to her level. She wanted to defeat her at what she was best at. She believed that with her many years of experience in the United States legal field, Gu Nianji was no match for her. I heard that Speaker Long also intends to ask you to apply for the position of the Chief Legal Counsel of the Senate Secretariat. Kai Xingnan finally calmed down. The corners of her mouth curved into a meaningful smile. I advise you not to waste your efforts. This position has long been taken. This was the first time. Chapter 978. Someone? Oh, you. Gu Nianji laughed nonchalantly. Then let's wait and see. Kai Xingnan wanted to say something else, but Hua Xiaoheng had already come out of the house. He looked straight ahead and said calmly, Nianji, let's go home. Gu Nianji quickly followed. Kai Xingnan was stunned by Hua Xiaoheng's straightforward words. How could he say such intimate words to a woman who had already broken up with him? Did Hua Xiaoheng enjoy Gu Nianji's constant pestering? Did this person like it when people shamelessly chased after him? Kai Xingnan's eyes became especially deep. Gu Nianji followed Hua Xiaoheng out and got into the car. She was still driving. Hua Xiaoheng rubbed his brows with one hand, and there was a hint of exhaustion on his solemn face. Gu Nianji secretly glanced at Hua Xiaoheng and drove out of the compound without batting an eyelid. After a while, Hua Xiaoheng asked her, What did you say to Kai Xingnan just now? I don't think you're very happy. Gu Nianji looked at her face in the rearview mirror. Was it that obvious? However, looking at the flawless smile on her face in the mirror, Gu Nianji felt that only Hua Xiaoheng could see her true emotions. She coughed lightly. It's nothing. This person is asking for it. Hua Xiaoheng didn't care about the trivial matters between these women. He said to Gu Nianji, Come to our base during the new year. Little Zay went to Africa and you have to help take a look at a lot of system tests. I don't trust others. Gu Nianji's computer skills were excellent. Most importantly, she had been taught by Zhao Liangzi. With her working with Zhao Liangzi, it would be twice the result with half the effort. Gu Nianji had nothing to do during the holidays anyway, so she agreed after thinking about it. Hua Xiaoheng was relieved and said, Also, think about what kind of job you want to do after the new year. You can go to a law firm if you want, but don't force yourself. Gu Nianji was still hesitant, but after Kai Xingnan's arrogance just now, she had already made a decision. Hua Xiao, I want to try working at the Senate. Hua Xiaoheng wasn't surprised and agreed. Okay, call Speaker Long after the new year. The matter was settled. Gu Nianji felt relieved and her mood instantly relaxed. She drove to the headquarters of the Special Operations Forces and entered with Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng and Gu Nianji returned to his official residence to settle down. You haven't lived here for a while. This time you'll be staying for half a month. Take a good look at what you want to buy. Hua Xiaoheng led Gu Nianji into his official residence. I've already contacted a few buyers in Europe. They'll bring someone over to take your measurements. You're going to work and your old clothes don't fit. You need a new wardrobe. Replace all of them? Gu Nianji frowned. I can't wear that many clothes. I'll just prepare a few gowns. I'll ask them to pay attention to the style. It has to be low-key and decent and it has to look good. Hua Xiaoheng patted her shoulder. It's my gift to you. Thank you, Hua Xiao. Gu Nianji made a face. In return, I'll work for you for half a month for free. Don't tell me you want to charge me? Hua Xiaoheng took out a cigarette from his pocket and lit it. White smoke billowed in front of him. Don't tell me you don't want to pay me? Gu Nianji teased him. TSK Hua Xiao is really good at squeezing labor. Hua Xiaoheng patted her head. Don't joke around. Hurry up and get ready to move in. When you have time, prepare the application for the Senate Secretariat. The Senate would only start work after the 15th of the Lunar New Year, and the recruitment process would officially begin. She still had half a month to prepare well. Gu Nianji nodded and looked at her watch. It was already past 2 in the afternoon. She was a bit sleepy and planned to go upstairs to her room to take a nap. As she followed Hua Xiaoheng up the stairs, her phone rang again. Hua Xiaoheng turned to look at her and smiled. "You're quite busy. It's not just you, Hua Xiao. We ordinary people have our own things to do too." Gu Nianji took out her phone to see it was Ma Qiqi calling. She smiled as she swiped open the phone. "Qiqi, Happy New Year." Ma Qiqi's excited voice came through. "Nianji, Happy New Year. I'm so excited. Nianji, I'll send a video to share with you." Soon after, Ma Qiqi sent a video. Gu Nianji opened it and saw that the screen was dark. She couldn't see anything. She thought there was something wrong with the phone and mumbled, "I just got a new phone. Why can't I see anything?" Hua Xiaoheng took 2 steps back and poked his head out to look. "What's wrong?" The phone screen suddenly lit up. It turned out that it was just the prologue of the video. It wasn't the phone that was broken. Gu Nianji and Hua Xiaoheng watched the video together. What appeared on the phone screen was a vast sky with twinkling stars. It looked like a scene from outer space. At that moment, Ma Qiqi appeared in a white dress suit like a little fairy. She looked around in surprise. The feeling of being able to reach out and pluck the stars was too beautiful and shocking. She really reached out and tried to touch the brightest star. She knew she shouldn't be able to touch it. Ma Qiqi in the video, Gu Nianji, and Hua Xiaoheng probably all thought the same thing. So when Ma Qiqi stretched out her hand and the brightest star really fell into her hand, not only did Ma Qiqi in the video laugh with surprise, but even Gu Nianji, who was outside the video, felt her heart skip a beat and her blood boil. So good. It wasn't a star but a shiny diamond ring. The pear-shaped diamond on the ring shone brightly under the starlight and actually glowed. It was really a diamond of extremely high purity. Just as Ma Qiqi was grinning from ear to ear, Yin Shixiang appeared in a slim-fitting black suit. He seemed to have walked out of the stars and knelt in front of Ma Qiqi. He held up an open diamond ring box and said excitedly, "Qiqi, will you marry me?" Yes, I will." Ma Qiqi held the diamond ring and said, "Yes," 3 times in a row. It worked. The proposal was a success. Suddenly, the background music of the wedding march appeared. The stars gradually faded, and the sound of laughter almost overflowed from the video. Many people walked out from behind the starry background. Men and women, young and old, all of them were decently dressed, elegant and beautiful. Finally, when a middle-aged man and woman appeared with tears in their eyes, Gu Nianji immediately recognized them. They were Ma Qiqi's parents. So Yin Shixiang had specially invited Ma Qiqi's parents over during the new year to plan his engagement ceremony with Ma Qiqi? Ma Qiqi clearly didn't know. When she saw her parents suddenly appear, she was stunned for a full 3 seconds before shouting, "Mom and Dad!" Then she threw herself over and hugged her parents, jumping and laughing. Yin Shixiang stood to the side with a doting expression. After a while he still pulled Ma Qiqi away. He stood in front of Ma Qiqi's parents and held her hand. He said sincerely, "Uncle, Auntie, I hope you can marry Qiqi to me. I will only love her in this life and only marry her. Everyone here today can be my witness. I will definitely treat Qiqi well for the rest of her life." Okay. Big Xiong, you're so considerate. Ma Qiqi's mother was so touched that she couldn't stop crying. Because of Yin Shixiang's occupation, Ma Qiqi's mother originally didn't want her daughter to marry a soldier, especially one on the special front lines. However, Ma Qiqi and her father liked Yin Shixiang very much. Now that Yin Shixiang was so considerate, Ma Qiqi's mother finally softened and accepted him. The video came to an abrupt end. The commotion ended, and the official residence returned to silence. Gu Nianji couldn't stop smiling. She immediately sent Ma Qiqi a huge red packet of 8,888 and texted her, "Happy engagement, my baby?" Hua Xiaoheng glanced at Gu Nianji. He thought she would reminisce about the past and argue with him, but she acted like nothing had happened. She was happy for Ma Qiqi and hummed as she went upstairs. From beginning to end, she didn't even look at Hua Xiaoheng. Hua Xiaoheng put his hands in his trouser pockets and leaned against the railing of the stairs. He thought about it silently for a while before taking out his phone to forward an email to Gu Nianji. It contained the written exam questions for the Senate Secretariat's recruitment. It was the second watch. Good night, dearest. Chapter 979. Gu Nianji went to her room and sat on the sofa. She took out Ma Qiqi and Yin Shixiang's engagement video and watched it several times. Other scenes aside, Gu Nianji was most envious that they had so many parents and relatives. On Yin Shixiang's side, other than his parents and uncles, he also had grandparents. Ma Qiqi also had grandparents, but she didn't go to Yin Shixiang's hometown. But when the two of them got married, there might be a banquet on both sides. That would be a lot of relatives. This was what marriage was like. Hua Xiaoheng went upstairs and knocked on Gu Nianji's door. Seeing that it wasn't locked, he pushed the door open and entered. He saw Gu Nianji sitting on the sofa and staring at her phone without blinking. Hua Xiaoheng sat next to her, but she didn't react. What's so good about someone else's engagement ceremony? Hua Xiaoheng took the phone from Gu Nianji's hands and stopped her from watching. Give it back. This is my best friend and best brother's engagement ceremony. Why can't I watch it? Gu Nianji couldn't help rolling her eyes at Hua Xiaoheng. I think you're jealous. Hua Xiaoheng shook his head speechlessly. I'm jealous? I just didn't think Big Xiong would use this flashy but impractical method to propose. Gu Nianji was furious. Flashy but impractical? Hua Xiao, what is flashy but real? Give me an example. Why are you so excited? You want it too? Hua Xiaoheng sat on the sofa and supported his head with one hand as he quietly watched Gu Nianji jump. What does that have to do with me? Gu Nianji refused to take the bait. This is the engagement ceremony Brother Xiong prepared for Qiqi. If Qiqi is touched, then his goal has been achieved. As for what you think, Hua Xiao, it doesn't matter at all to these two newlyweds. To them, you're just passerby A. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. Okay, I'm passerby A. What about you? Passerby B. Gu Nianji's enthusiasm suddenly deflated. She said dejectedly, yes, I'm passerby B. Passerby A and passerby B are a match made in heaven, Hua Xiaoheng added silently in his heart. But seeing Gu Nianji's depressed expression, he wisely changed the topic. Nianji, I got you the exam questions from the Senate's previous recruitment. Do you want to go through them? For a top student, doing questions was a daily routine. If he was in a good mood, he would do it. If he was in a bad mood, he would do it too. When he was in a good or bad mood, well, it was better to do 2 sets of questions to calm himself down. As expected, Gu Nianji's attention was diverted. There are exam questions. Yes, the Secretariat of the Senate's recruitment process is divided into 2 parts, a written test and an interview. Based on past experience, the written exam paper is the same, but the interview questions are different depending on the position you are applying for. Gu Nianji immediately said, hurry up and send it to me. I'll go to sleep after I finish reading it. Hua Xiaoheng gestured for her to look at the computer. I've sent it to your email. Gu Nianji got up and went to the bedroom. She had a computer set there. After Gu Nianji left, Hua Xiaoheng took out his phone and texted Yin Shixiang. Big Xiong, the marriage report didn't pass. Go back and rewrite it. From the 2nd to the 14th of the first month, Gu Nianji spent the 14 days helping Zhao Liangzi, who was far away at the Cape of Good Hope in Africa, debug the Nandu satellite synchronization and search for computer programs. When she had time, she would also go through the exam questions for the Secretariat of the Senate. Hua Xiaoheng left the imperial capital directly during this time. He was really busy. Ever since Gu Nianji moved back to his official residence in the Special Operations Forces during the Lunar New Year, Hua Xiaoheng no longer worried about Gu Nianji's safety. Therefore, he took the opportunity to go with General Ji to visit the officers and soldiers of all levels who were on duty during the Lunar New Year. This time, he was accompanying the chairman of the Supreme Military Council, General Ji, on this trip as the Deputy Secretary General of the Standing Committee of the Supreme Military Council. The scope was no longer limited to the Special Operations Forces secret forces, but all the major military regions. Since General Ji had made him his successor, he couldn't let him remain hidden behind the scenes forever. Therefore, General Ji would also give him opportunities to familiarize himself with the important matters of the other military regions. This visit to the grassroots during the Lunar New Year was Hua Xiaoheng's first official trip since he became the Deputy Secretary General of the Standing Committee of the Supreme Military Council. The itinerary was tight, and only a specialized news agency accompanied him to release all external news. Gu Nianji didn't contact Hua Xiaoheng for the past 2 weeks. Hua Xiaoheng occasionally called at night, but Gu Nianji was either in the central control room talking to Zhao Liangzi or studying with her phone off. After calling a few times but not getting through, Hua Xiaoheng gave up. However, even if Gu Nianji didn't contact Hua Xiaoheng, she could still see him on the TV news. Most of the time, he wore a low military cap and stood beside General Ji, who was as sturdy as a pine tree. He was low-key and silent, but he was also steady and imposing. It was impossible to ignore his presence. Although his face had never clearly appeared on TV, his aura of handsomeness that even the most popular idol couldn't compare to instantly set off a wave of popularity on social media in the Wuxia Empire. There were people online every day who were infatuated with his on-screen appearances. Hashtag have you seen the new, handsome, articles today? Hashtag I never thought that I would have a day where I would watch the news on TV at 7 p.m. Hashtag wow, military brother is so handsome and beautiful, I want to marry him. Hashtag the military has finally done the right thing, which is to promote such a young, beautiful, and handsome, and prosperous, handsome man. Hashtag suddenly I have the reason to protect the country, flowers, and faith, secretly, love. Every time He Xiaoheng appeared on TV, he would definitely be trending the next day. Even General Ji didn't expect this kind of popularity. He Xiaoheng hadn't even appeared in a clear shot of his face. How did this kind of popularity come about? He Xiaoheng himself didn't want to have so much exposure. Therefore he later discussed with the accompanying news unit and only cut out his back for all the shots that had him in them. Even the blurry front image was removed. As a result, even the faint silhouette of his back was recognized by sharp-eyed fans. Hashtag I never thought that a beautiful man's back was so beautiful. Hashtag wow, military brother has a beautiful back that's suitable for hugging from behind. Hashtag I only knew that there were people who were obsessed with looks and voices, but it turns out that I'm also obsessed with backs. Hashtag wow, military brother, does your mother know that even your back is so beautiful? Hashtag strongly protest that the TV station is jealous of the talented. They're deliberately not showing a positive image of military brother. And the usually quiet official news channel's Weibo was now bustling like it was New Year's, although it was indeed New Year's. There were infatuated fans tearing up, quarreling, deliberately defaming, and desperately flattering. There were also people pretending to be loyal, pretending to be the other way around, pretending to be passers-by, and all kinds of people dancing around. The news channel's official Weibo was bustling with activity. She was already so old, but she finally had a taste of being an internet celebrity. This feeling was toxic. She didn't want to give up. Gu Nianji took on the main task of connecting with Zhao Liangzi in the Special Operations Forces. She also realized how difficult it was for He Xiaoheng and the others to work every day after actually working in the Special Operations Forces for a period of time. Whether it was in terms of brain power, physical strength, or even mental strength, they were all extremely strong. Especially when Gu Nianji thought about how what she was doing could affect the lives and deaths of countless people, she felt even more responsible. She didn't dare to hold back at all and wanted nothing more than to give her all until her death. When she returned to He Xiaoheng's official residence at 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, she went through the Senate exam questions. To her, this was already relaxing in leisure mode. Then, before going to bed, she only had a few minutes to browse Weibo and check the news. As soon as she opened Weibo and saw those infatuated bloggers, she got a headache. She had already coldly blacklisted many people, but the front page still constantly had news about He Xiaoheng. To be precise, it was news about how infatuated He Xiaoheng was. He Xiaoheng had inexplicably become popular on the internet, and Gu Nianji's intuition told her that something was wrong. Yes, He Xiaoheng was very handsome, so handsome that people couldn't help but fall for him at first glance. He could clearly crush those sissy little fresh meats in the entertainment industry with his face alone, but the problem was that he had never clearly shown his face. Just by relying on those blurry side profiles on TV, he was able to gain such a large number of fans and even make it to the top 10 of the trending searches. Whether you believed it or not, Gu Nianji didn't believe it. This was the first update. The second update at 7 p.m. P.S. Tomorrow's update time, please pay attention to the explanation after the second update at 7 p.m. There might be a surprise. Chapter 980. In fact, Gu Nianji had searched the entire internet more than once and was certain that there wasn't a single clear photo of He Xiaoheng. Of course, this was because of the nature of his work. He had always been behind the scenes and couldn't appear in public. Later, General Ji intended to train him to be his successor and promoted him to Deputy Secretary General of the Standing Committee of the Supreme Military Council. That was how he appeared on TV a few times. His appearances were very short. He was either in disguise from the side, or wearing large sunglasses to obscure his face. For example, the last time he went to the United States to pick up Tang Guirin, the image of him getting off the plane was shown on the news. He was wearing large sunglasses that covered half his face. The audience mostly saw his tall and imposing figure and powerful aura. Even if he didn't say anything, they couldn't ignore his presence. But now, Hua Xiaoheng's popularity was almost on par with a certain popular actor's sudden popularity because of a popular drama. Gu Nianji, an internet child who was good at stirring up trouble, sensed that something was not right with this seemingly fresh flowers and embroidered brocade and oil on a raging fire. But she couldn't produce any concrete evidence. She just couldn't stop worrying. There was a sense of urgency and pressure that came before a storm. So that night, when she couldn't sleep because of this, she got up and wrote a small program that could search for Hua Xiaoheng's Weibo content on Weibo according to the scope she set. In order to keep track of his movements, Gu Nianji set the program to automatically search every 6 hours. Then it sorted out the searched content according to its importance and sent it to her email. Fortunately, everything had been normal for the past 2 weeks. Gu Nianji even wondered if she had been too paranoid and overly paranoid. On the night of the 14th day of the first lunar month, Gu Nianji finally finished the satellite debugging work with Zhao Liangzi. She also passed the security test of the network channel. She returned to the official residence early and ate a full dinner before washing up and going to bed. Hua Xiaoheng texted her during the day to say that he would be back the next day. Tomorrow was the national television station's Lantern Festival party. The heads of the Senate, the cabinet, and the military would all be attending. Hua Xiaoheng would also be accompanying General Ji to such a party for the first time. Gu Nianji picked up her phone and saw the message. She glanced at it and opened the email on her phone. Gu Nianji's heart skipped a beat when she saw the sudden influx of emails in her inbox. There were more than 10 days ago. These emails were automatically generated by her Weibo search program. Any Weibo content related to Hua Xiaoheng that day, even if it was only indirectly related, was searched under the logic provided by Gu Nianji. She checked the keywords and ranked them in order of importance. Gu Nianji's gaze suddenly froze as she read through each email. Her automated program found an article about Hua Xiaoheng written by a blogger. This was the first time she had seen someone fantasizing about Hua Xiaoheng. Out of curiosity, she clicked on it to take a look. Gu Nianji only skimmed through the short essay, which was less than 3,000 words long, and her face turned livid. She was so angry that she couldn't breathe. She sat up straight on the bed, holding her phone with one hand. She wished she could crawl through the network, drag the blogger who wrote this short article over, and shoot him dead. The 3,000-word essay was about a 12-year-old girl named Gu Nianji. After being rescued by a high-ranking military officer named Hua Xiao, she began to shamelessly seduce him. She was only 12 years old but already had all sorts of curves. Hua Xiao finally lost his mind and was successfully seduced by the 12-year-old Gu Nianji one night after drinking and made a huge mistake. Hua Xiao knew that this was an ill-fated relationship and painfully wanted to get rid of Gu Nianji. However, Gu Nianji relied on her identity as an orphan and was delicate and pitiful. Once Hua Xiao wanted to break up with her, Gu Nianji would do all sorts of things until an angelic goddess appeared and finally helped Hua Xiao walk out of this illicit relationship. Gu Nianji's face was full of black question marks as she skimmed through the article. Dexam. Gu Nianji finally understood what it meant to distort the truth and use every conceivable means. Logically speaking, even if one wanted to write an erotic article, one had to follow the basic rules. What 12-year-old girl would have a curvaceous body? And a wet seduction? Gu Nianji remembered that when she was 12 years old, she was so fat that her face was like a silver plate and her waist was like a barrel. Even if she was wet, she was just a barrel filled with water. How could she be seduced? How horny was Hua Xiaoheng to be seduced by the 12-year-old Gu Nianji who was as fat as a barrel? However, this also exposed the fact that the person who wrote the article knew how but didn't know why. They knew a little about the relationship between Gu Nianji and Hua Xiaoheng, but they didn't know the specifics. Therefore, this person couldn't be from the Special Operations Forces. Because the people in the Special Operations Forces all remembered what Gu Nianji looked like when she was 12 years old. They definitely couldn't have written such a masterpiece. Of course, this person must have some inside information. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known that Gu Nianji was saved by Hua Xiaoheng when she was 12 years old and was entrusted by the military to be her guardian. Even so, when she saw herself being defiled in the article, she felt like her heart had been thrown into the mud and then stepped on a few times. They wouldn't stop until she was ground to dust. Gu Nianji restrained herself until her whole body trembled. She bit her lower lip so hard that it bled. She only came to her senses when she tasted a trace of blood on the tip of her tongue. When she thought about it carefully, this article wasn't just slandering Gu Nianji. More importantly, it was slandering Hua Xiaoheng. As a young high-ranking military general with a bright future, and a young high-ranking military general who had just become a phenomenal online celebrity, Being immediately flooded by this kind of article was too beautiful to look at. Her left hand curled into a fist and coughed softly. Gunyanji smiled coldly. Trying to cause trouble? I'll play with you to the end. She gathered her thoughts and went to look at the original author's post. This author was a terrible writer who wrote new media articles. Looking at the time on his Weibo, this short article had been uploaded less than an hour ago. The original author had limited fans, so there wasn't a lot of dissemination. But even if he only had less than 100 fans, there was already a queue under this article. A series of posts, asking for articles, asking for spreading hearts, were extremely neat and eye-catching. Gunyanji couldn't stop laughing coldly. How was this Hu Xiaoheng's personal charm? Someone was obviously messing with him. As a high-ranking military general, he had been hyped up on social media to this extent. Now that even the short article had been added, it wasn't support. It was an attempt to destroy his reputation and create obstacles for his career. On the surface, the direction of this short article was very obvious. The person who was hit the hardest was Gunyanji. Hu Xiaoheng was a man, so the other party was still lenient towards him. But the actual effect wasn't like that. From Gunyanji's perspective, the other party's move was extremely stupid. This article not only destroyed Gunyanji, but more importantly, it made it impossible for Hu Xiaoheng to make a comeback. Although it was stupid, it was also vicious. This kind of article, coupled with Hu Xiaoheng's popularity that hadn't died down yet, would immediately cause an explosive effect on the entire internet once a major verified account came out to promote it. The outcome would be devastating. Gunyanji thought about it and instinctively felt that all of this had to do with the Kai family. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, Kai Songyin, Tang Guirin, and Kai Xingnan had been humiliated by Hu Xiaoheng. They were looking for revenge. But if they were only looking for revenge, did they not want Hu Xiaoheng to be their son-in-law? This move was too ruthless. If Hu Xiaoheng was defeated to the point where he couldn't make a comeback, would they still be willing to marry their precious daughter of nobility to him? Putting aside the question of whether Hu Xiaoheng would marry her, Gunyanji was thinking about this problem from the perspective of an idiot. From this incident, it could be seen that the Kai family, who controlled the media, had become unruly after Tan Dongbang won the election. They were confident that they could control public opinion. As the saying went, I can beat you down with one hand, but I can also raise you up with the other. It all depended on whether you would listen to me, and Gunyanji believed in, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. To her, it meant that in order to defeat an idiot, one must first understand the logic of an idiot. Otherwise, the other party would use their rich experience of being an idiot to beat you until you doubted life itself. Gunyanji silently opened her laptop and opened her most powerful hacking software. Okay, I'll wrap up early today, so I'll come and see what kind of divine being this great author is. It was the next morning. Tomorrow's update would be afternoon. Chapter 981. After opening the hacking software, Gunyanji first hid her IP as usual, then used someone else's IP to return to the original blog. She checked the status and found that the blogger was actually online. She looked at her watch. It was past 7 p.m., and the short article had been uploaded just after 6 p.m. Was he updating or interacting with his fans at this time? Gunyanji didn't say anything else and immediately sent him a phishing private message. The blogger saw the email almost immediately. Gunyanji's Weibo phishing private message could be disguised as the account of a Weibo member's secretary, saying that there was a problem with the other party's account and asking him to confirm his identity. The blogger didn't suspect anything and immediately logged into the phishing website in the private message and entered his login account and password. This was the most labor-saving hacking method, and Gunyanji planned to try it first. If the other party didn't take the bait within 5 minutes, she would use another method. In the end, she only waited for 3 minutes before the other party's account and password were sent to Gunyanji's hacker email. With the account and password, Gunyanji quickly logged into the other party's Weibo account and downloaded all of his content. This included private chats and messages with other people, as well as his login IP and login address. They were all recorded. Then she calmly deleted the phishing private message she had just sent from the other party's private message column, then went to the security center to erase all traces of logging in and quickly logged out. Then she changed the phishing website's URL so that the other party could no longer find the URL he had just entered his login account and password. After everything was done, Gunyanji quickly scanned all the data and downloaded it to analyze it. She immediately discovered that the person had a secret transaction with another Weibo account. Simply put, Someone had contacted the blogger who wrote new media articles a few days ago and offered him a large sum of money to write an article. The outline of the article and the names of the characters were all decided by the other party, and even the follow-up marketing strategy had been discussed. In order to pretend that the article had become popular naturally, the person had also racked his brains to think of a way. It was also because they wanted the matter to look like there was no one behind it and that it had become popular naturally, so they had prepared many methods and planned to use them one by one. Their plan was to make the article become popular in 2 or 3 days, so far, the short article that had been posted for less than an hour hadn't spread yet, and the matter hadn't escalated to the point of no return. Gunyinji breathed a sigh of relief. She then checked the historical data and found out that before this incident, the blogger only had 3 fans. Therefore, the majority of this blogger's 90-odd fans were zombie accounts created by the Internet Water Army Company. They were also the accounts that would be used to create the first wave of popularity. Meanwhile, his essay had already been published. Even the promotional links had been sent to the fake reviewers' accounts and marketing companies. Only this kind of lousy writer would accept this kind of job, right? She had gone crazy thinking about fame and money. Any writer with a little bit of fame who valued their reputation would not do this kind of dirty work that involved taking money to blackmail people. In the Wuxia Empire, it was illegal to write pornographic novels. Gunyinji continued to read their private messages. The man promised that the writer would not get into trouble with this incident. He said that they had someone backing them up and promised that there would be no legal problems. Gunyinji's slender fingers tapped on the desk when she saw the words, legal issues. She couldn't help whistling. You even know about legal issues? There are experts too? Gunyinji immediately perked up. She no longer felt tired and was full of fighting spirit. The original blogger's identity was quickly investigated by Gunyinji. He was just a writer who wanted to be famous. He had just started working full-time at home and wanted to make a big deal. There was nothing special about it. The important thing now was to find out who the original blogger's account belonged to. Gunyinji first followed the person's account to his Weibo. She discovered that the person's Weibo verification was actually a PR, public relations, for a large entertainment company. He was the one who had sent a private message to the original blogger and clearly asked him to stir up trouble and deliberately write those despicable articles to smear Gunyinji's name and warn He Xiaoheng. Gunyinji was no stranger to this entertainment company at all. When she was investigating Gu Yanran and Tan Dongbang's affair, she had found out that this entertainment company belonged to the Kai family and was managed by Kai Songyin. Haha, she was definitely going to make a report. But how could she catch the mastermind so easily? After Gunyinji saved all his information, she still felt that something was off. If Kai Songyin really ordered someone to do this, why did she have to be so ruthless? Didn't she already compromise many times for Tan Gairen's sake just to get close to the Huo family? But if this short article really spread, Gunyinji wouldn't be the only one who would be hurt. He Xiaoheng would be the one who would suffer the most. Thinking about it, a high-ranking general who was on the rise and had a limitless future would definitely be completely ruined by a short article of less than 3,000 words. Under these circumstances, no matter how greedy He Xiaoheng was, he wouldn't be with Tan Gairen. So if this matter was really ordered by Kai Songyin, Gunyinji only had 2 conclusions. One was that Kai Songyin was very unwilling to let Tan Gairen and He Xiaoheng be together. Therefore she went all out and destroyed He Xiaoheng's future. Tan Gairen wouldn't be able to be with him even if she wanted to. The second was that Kai Songyin thought she had already mastered the media to the point where she could summon clouds and rain with a flip of her hand. First, she smeared He Xiaoheng to the point where he couldn't be seen, then washed him clean with super strong detergent. Gunyinji shook her head. Kai Songyin was able to promote Tan Dongbang to the position of prime minister, so she wouldn't have such a shallow understanding of the media and public opinion. The media manipulated the public opinion, but what was the public opinion? Using an ancient saying, the public opinion was like water. Water could carry a boat, but it could also capsize it. If one wasn't careful, the boat of friendship would capsize and drown everyone who dared to play with the public opinion. Therefore, even if Kai Songyin had become arrogant because she had single-handedly promoted Tan Dongbang to the position of prime minister, she wouldn't be so arrogant that her IQ would drop to the point of being retarded. So the second reason probably didn't have anything to do with Kai Songyin. Gunyinji thought about it carefully and looked at the Weibo account of the Entertainment Limited Company's PR for a while. She suddenly realized that his private messages seemed to be especially clean. It was so clean that there weren't any clues at all. That meant that the private messages this person sent to the original blogger were only saved by the original blogger, but he had already deleted them himself. Not only did he delete the private messages related to the original blogger, but he also deleted all the private messages from his own work. Did he have to delete them so cleanly? Gu Nianji's heart skipped a beat. She entered the backend server of Weibo again and found the backup data. This was because the PR could only delete the private message records from his own account, but Weibo's backend server had the records stored. She scrolled back 10 days and saw that this person had indeed deleted all the private message records on Weibo, as expected of the PR of the Entertainment Limited company. This Weibo private message record was exploding. Gu Nianji quickly read through it. Not long after, Gu Nianji's eyes narrowed as she realized something was wrong. On the first day of the new year, a mysterious account had contacted this PR and asked him to find an unrated writer to write a short essay to smear Gu Nianji and Huo Xiaoheng. This PR was originally unwilling. After all, the instructions he received were to target Gu Nianji's shamelessness, and Huo Xiaoheng would appear as a positive person who wouldn't be tempted in the essay. But the mysterious account gave this PR an offer he couldn't refuse. This amount of money was so much that this PR could buy out the Entertainment Limited company he worked for. It was 300 times his current annual salary of 300,000. It was this kind of price tag that made the PR, public relations, take the risk and go against Kai Songyin's orders. They changed the outline of the short story according to the mysterious person's request to openly defame Gu Nianji and secretly defame Huo Xiaoheng. The main point was to make Huo Xiaoheng bear this stain and never be able to take another step forward. Gu Nianji followed the clues and set her eyes on the mysterious Weibo account that contacted this PR. But following the clues of the private message backup data, Gu Nianji discovered that the Weibo account had actually been deleted. The security was so tight. They really wanted to cause trouble. Gu Nianji became braver as she faced setbacks. She had always been the type to become stronger when facing strong opponents and stronger when facing weak opponents. The harder the task, the more she wanted to try. Of course, she could even wipe out the intranet of the German Federal Intelligence Service, so how could Weibo, which was full of security holes? Gu Nianji's fingers flew as she typed out a series of commands on her laptop and hacked into Weibo's backend server again. The last time she had a problem with Weibo's server, she had encountered a similar situation. The account had been deleted. When a user deleted their account, the server actually didn't delete their account. Instead, it moved the account from being protected by normal security software to the inactive folder. The inactive folder's security measures were much lower than normal accounts. Just like last time, Gu Nianji opened the password testing program and used less than a second to find out the backend login password of this mysterious account. After the password was cracked, Gu Nianji entered the uninhabited land and quickly found all the frozen contents of the deleted account. She searched in chronological order and quickly found the data records of the day the mysterious account contacted the original Weibo blogger. The records also included the other party's login IP. Gu Nianji looked at the IP data, and the corners of her eyes twitched. It was too familiar. It could practically be considered an old friend of Gu Nianji's. Wasn't this the invalid IP that appeared during the video call between Gu Yanran and Tan Dongbang? Seeing the invalid IP, Gu Nianji sighed deeply. She seemed to have expected it, but at the same time, it was unexpected. It was like the sword of Damocles hanging over her head was finally going to fall. After going around in circles, she was back to square one. There was a path to heaven, but you refused to take it. There was no door to hell, but you insisted on coming. This was the first update. It was 7 o'clock at night and the second update. Sorry everyone. The editor informed me of the wrong time. Today is still 2 updates and tomorrow will be 7 updates. Chapter 982. Gu Nianji looked at the invalid IP and her eyes darkened. The situation was more complicated than she had imagined, but it wasn't so complicated that she couldn't handle it on her own. After weighing the pros and cons in her mind, she quickly decided on her next course of action. Her original goal was to report Kai Songyin's entertainment company for manipulating the internet water army and purposely tarnishing the reputation of the military's high-ranking generals. With Kai Songyin's status as the First Lady, it could be confirmed that this was a very serious crime. However, after reading the short article and discovering the invalid IP, Gu Nianji's goal and thoughts quickly changed. First of all, this short story was too shameless. She couldn't let this short story have a chance to be seen by others. She had already hacked the blogger's computer and formatted the hard drive that contained the original draft of the short article. She was using her own program to search for the cloud drive online and scan all the files stored on the cloud drive. She grabbed keywords to see if the blogger had uploaded it to the cloud drive. Currently, 80% of the scan progress had passed, but she still hadn't found any cloud drives, so it should have been completely deleted. As for the content of the article that the blogger remembered, it didn't matter. What Gu Nianji was going to do next would make the blogger realize the serious consequences of this. Even if he could remember every word clearly, the blogger would keep all the content to himself, not daring to say a word until he died. Gu Nianji wouldn't report Kai Songyin's entertainment company anymore. She wanted to use more aggressive methods to let Kai Songyin know what it meant to be caught in one's own trap and to shoot oneself in the foot. What did it mean by the highest level of knows when no die? Therefore, the first thing she needed to do was to cool down Hua Xiaoheng's popularity. She couldn't let people associate him with Hua Xiaoheng again. How could she do that? Gu Nianji looked at the invalid IP again. She remembered that this invalid IP had appeared when she was looking up the IP of Gu Yanran and Tan Dongbang's short film. Didn't Kai Songyin and Tan Dongbang like to use this kind of lowly method to tarnish the reputation of others? The best way to deal with them was to give them a taste of their own medicine. However, Gu Nianji also admitted that although this method was unorthodox and lowly, it was very effective. Food and sex were the same. The general public was naturally interested in this kind of news, so it would be widely disseminated. It was impossible for the media not to know. Since you, Kai Songyin, made the first move, then don't blame me for retaliating. The high-definition video of Prime Minister Tan and Gu Yanran that Gu Nianji had saved for a long time could finally be put to use. Pulling up the video from her computer, Gu Nianji scrolled through the progress bar with a blank expression on her face. This time, she wasn't satisfied with only Prime Minister Tan and Gu Yanran appearing in the short film. The corners of Gu Nianji's lips curled into a mischievous smile. He easily opened the editing software on his laptop and searched for it on the internet. He downloaded some clips of Kai Songyin's personal image that had appeared on the TV news and edited it into the short movie. Coupled with the divine song Lost Rivers, the two-person version became a three-person version. While Prime Minister Tan and Gu Yanran were having sex on the bed, Kai Songyin was happily filming them with her digital camera. In order to let people who hadn't paid attention to this old news know who had starred in this short film, Gu Nianji had specially added the names of the characters and used Hollywood techniques. It took her only half an hour to do all this. When she logged into Weibo again, she discovered that the blogger had already gone offline. Just in time, she could freely use this person's Weibo account. Therefore, after the 5-minute short film was restored and edited, Gu Nianji logged into the blogger's Weibo account again and helped him post a Weibo post. This Weibo post was, "Shocking secret news. I didn't think you were this kind of prime minister." Then, Gu Nianji used the backend program to directly replace the 3,000-word short Weibo post that the blogger had pinned to the short film and video. She also set it so that it couldn't be deleted or blocked. This time, Gu Nianji was ruthless and changed a part of Weibo's backend program. Fortunately, she discovered it in time, so the short film hadn't been backed up by Weibo's server yet. Therefore, Gu Nianji didn't need to look through the backup data to delete it. The short film had already been deleted completely, and the link now pointed to the 5-minute short film. Unless all of Weibo's servers were shut down, this short film would always be up there for the whole world to admire. The short film had been replaced with the short film, but the promotional link had already been sent out. This kind of switching was done without anyone noticing. Neither party noticed anything amiss. Once it was 8 p.m., the entire promotional process was carried out on Weibo in an orderly and unhurried manner. According to the original plan, 3 hours after the short film was posted, the Weibo verified account that Kai Songyin's entertainment company had bribed would accidentally be tagged with a link to the short film. After reading it, he would be shocked and immediately repost it with a caption, "Has meaning, content, and inside information." It was called Within 3 minutes. As Gu Nianji expected, once the Weibo verified account appeared, and the marketing accounts that followed the verified account also took off, the entire Weibo was instantly shocked by the short film. To be honest, the verified account that had left the post didn't even look at what was in the link. He knew it was a video, but the cover of the video was a very simple seal character. He thought it was a music video for the short film, so he reposted it without even looking at it. To him, there were too many advertising companies contacting him. He could easily make hundreds of thousands of dollars with a simple move of his fingers, so why not? With the support of these verified accounts and marketing accounts, and Kai Songyin's successful Weibo water army adding fuel to the fire, the 5-minute short film exploded in popularity. Even the foreign media that had been quietly watching Weibo got their hands on the video like it was a treasure. After all, it was a video of the Wuxia Empire's elected prime minister in bed. It was hard to get even with money. Therefore, at around 9 p.m., on the 14th of the first lunar month, a 5-minute Weibo short film exploded all over the internet. Weibo's servers were almost paralyzed. However, Kai Songyin's entertainment company was keeping an eye on the official Weibo account and forced them to repair the servers. They couldn't allow the servers to malfunction at this critical juncture. At this time, the TV stations that were originally holding pre-Lantern Festival parties were all shocked by this news. They all stopped their TV programs and began to broadcast the Weibo short film that had the entire internet going crazy. The people who had been drooling over Hua Xiaoheng all disappeared without a trace. Almost everyone's attention was on the 5-minute short film. Some people had seen this short film before, but at that time, the image of the man and the surrounding scenes were all blurred out. Only the woman's image was clear. This time, not only were there images of the man's front and back from all angles, but there was also a third party holding a camcorder. Then, almost in the blink of an eye, everyone recognized the man in the short film based on the subtitles. It was their newly elected Prime Minister Tan Dongbang, who had just escaped the impeachment. The woman who had sex with him was Gu Yanran, who had previously been rumored to be his mistress. And the middle-aged woman holding the camcorder and filming next to him was his wife, Kai Songyin. It was fine if it was Gu Yanran since she was already locked up in prison. However, Prime Minister Tan and Mrs. Tan appeared in this short film at the same time, so the significance was extraordinary. When this Weibo short film exploded on the internet, Kai Songyin's entertainment company's executives finally realized something was wrong. What happened to the promised 3,000-word essay? What was going on with this short film that was so popular on the internet? Who posted it? I want to sue them. Also delete it. Hurry up and delete it. The executives were so scared that they were about to have a heart attack. They took out their phones, landlines, and internet phones and frantically searched the world for someone to delete the video. I don't care how much it costs. Delete it immediately. What? Can't delete it? What do you mean? It wasn't posted on Weibo? Can't we get the blogger to delete it? The PR officer who had contacted the blogger quickly said, "Director, that won't do. That person said he can't delete it and said he didn't upload it. His account was hacked." The executives didn't believe it. "Get me the management of Weibo and tell them it was me. Get them to delete it from the back end." The PR officer was still quite diligent. After realizing something was wrong, he immediately contacted the blogger and asked him what he had posted. The blogger cried that he had been hacked and didn't know what was going on with the short film. The PR officer still had to calm the blogger down at this time. Otherwise, if the blogger revealed the truth, everyone would be dead. Therefore, the PR officer spoke up for the blogger. "Director, I contacted them a long time ago. The management of Weibo said they can't delete it. It seems like there's a problem with the Weibo program. It really was hacked. There's content in this world that the back-end program can't delete. Do you think I'm a computer idiot?" The executive of Kai Songyin Entertainment Private Limited glared at him with a pair of dead fish eyes. He felt like he was about to become a dead fish. He had no choice but to personally call the management of Weibo and use both carrot and stick to get them to delete the video or block it. Now wasn't the time to pursue responsibility. They had to quickly take down the video. "Director, it's not that we don't want to delete it. Weibo's technical staff has been trying for 10 minutes, but the backend can't delete it. We don't know what's going on either. Moreover, it's clearly your own promotion. Can't you just delete it yourself? If I could delete it, why would I look for you? What a bunch of useless people." The executive of Kai Songyin Entertainment Private Limited ranted for 15 minutes. When he realized that the short film was still spreading across the internet at lightning speed, he finally collapsed on the sofa. It was the second update. "I'm sorry everyone. The editor informed me of the wrong time. It will be released at 7 tomorrow. Chapter 983. At that moment, Tan Dongbang and Kai Songyin still had no idea about it. They were having dinner with Tan Guirin and the Tans and Kais at a restaurant. Tan Dongbang had to attend the Lantern Festival party as the new Prime Minister on the 15th day of the first lunar month. He would also be giving a speech to the entire nation, so he had to attend. Therefore, the family gathering was set for the 14th night of the first lunar month. The two families finally managed to get together. The dishes had just been served, but they hadn't started eating yet. Just as they were toasting each other, Kai Songyin's phone suddenly rang. She took it and saw that it was a call from her personal assistant. Her personal assistant was probably afraid that she wouldn't pick up, so she sent her a text. Director Kai, hurry up and go on Weibo. The original video of the Prime Minister Gu Yanran and you has been leaked. What original video? There were videos of her, Gu Yanran, and Prime Minister Tan? Kai Songyin was confused but also a bit disdainful. It was complete nonsense. She wasn't surprised that there were videos of Gu Yanran and Tan Dongbang, but why was there one of her? At that moment, more and more members of the Tans and Kais in the private room were looking down at their phones. Some even looked at her strangely. Kai Songyin instantly realized that something was wrong. She opened Weibo in a panic and immediately saw the top 10 trending topics. Almost all of them were related to Prime Minister Tan and Mrs. Tan's video. Also, the number of searches was very high. It was completely incomparable to those bot trending topics. Kai Songyin's heart skipped a beat as she opened a video link. The image that instantly appeared on the phone made her almost throw her phone away. Who did this? I'm going to sue him. I'm definitely going to sue him. This is too much. How dare he tarnish the Prime Minister's image? He must have a death wish. Kai Songyin immediately knew what video it was. She also immediately realized that the video had been edited. She didn't appear in the original video at all, but some bastard had added her image into this dirty video. Although she was only recording with a digital camera, she couldn't stand it. She wanted to puke just thinking about it. This was intolerable. Kai Songyin had always had a fiery temper. Now that even Tan Dongbang listened to her, and the people around her were flattering and fawning over her, she couldn't help but swell up. Kai Songyin shot up from her seat and rushed into the private room to call her personal assistant. What are you doing? I'm paying you a high salary just so you can watch the show. Hurry up and find a lawyer and send a lawyer's letter. He wanted Weibo to remove the trending topic. Block the entire internet and delete the video. Kai Songyin roared. The veins on her forehead bulged, and the hand that gripped her phone was like a chicken's claw. Her assistant was about to cry on the phone. Director Kai, it's really not that we didn't work hard. We've already asked Weibo's management to delete it from the entire network, and we've also contacted the network management office, but we don't know what's wrong with Weibo's program. Their technicians have already spent half an hour, but they still can't delete it or even block it. Our director was so worried about this that he had a heart attack. He's been sent to the hospital. I felt that the situation wasn't right. It wasn't something an ordinary organization could handle. You're the wife of the Prime Minister. Could you get a rather powerful secret organization to handle this? Kai Songyin immediately thought of Hua Xiaoheng. But, if she got Hua Xiaoheng's help, then would he find out that she had purposely instructed her subordinate to write about him in Gunyanji? Kai Songyin shook her head and tossed the thought to the back of her mind. She immediately asked her assistant, what about that article? How's the promotion going? Hurry up and take it down. Kai Songyin's personal assistant almost knelt down when she still remembered that article at this time. Director Kai, we originally wanted to promote and repost that article, but we don't know what happened. The promotion link that the original blogger sent us was actually this short film. This was like a huge hammer directly smashing Kai Songyin's head. She saw stars and almost swayed. She quickly held onto the wall of the private room to barely steady herself. Cold sweat broke out all over her body. A feeling of shame, anger, and a desire to die enveloped her. So whose handiwork was this? Who was so resourceful that they could grasp her movements the entire time and then secretly replace her promotion link? Out of fear of the Special Operations Forces, Kai Songyin's first thought was that Hua Xiaoheng found out and struck first. But on second thought, if it was Hua Xiaoheng, wouldn't he be afraid of making a mistake? He had a bright future ahead of him. Even if he found out that she had instructed someone to write a short article, he could just delete it and warn her. He wouldn't do something so heartless, would he? Also, she remembered that the outline she had her trusted subordinate write was to endlessly defame Gunyanji. She had still been merciful to Hua Xiaoheng and made sure that it wouldn't have a decisive impact on his career. Kai Songyin had thought of everything correctly, but she hadn't expected that her plan would be disrupted by someone else. Someone had interfered and used her resources and methods to fully defame Hua Xiaoheng. The mastermind also didn't know that his wishful thinking had been taken advantage of by Gunyanji. She had overturned the entire matter in one fell swoop, and the people who had put in all their effort to defame Prime Minister Tan and Kai Songyin. At that moment, Kai Songyin felt like she was in a giant maze with flashing mirrors everywhere, reflecting the extremely wretched person in the mirror, She wailed and slumped to the ground. Grabbing her hair, she was on the verge of a mental breakdown. Tanguerin was worried about Kai Songyin, so she heard her wailing and quickly ran in. "Mommy, what happened?" Kai Xingnan also came in. Her face was dark as she handed the phone to Tanguerin. "See for yourself. Don't look." Kai Songyin sobered up as soon as she saw Tanguerin. She suddenly snatched the phone from Kai Xingnan's hand. "How can you show such a dirty thing to little darling? Xingnan, are you out of your mind?" Kai Xingnan was furious when she heard that, but seeing that her youngest aunt's family must be in a bad mood after something like this happened, she controlled her anger and said, "Auntie, what do you want to do? What's going on with this short film?" Of course, Kai Songyin wouldn't tell the truth. Also, this short film had been re-edited by someone to add Kai Songyin's image, so it was definitely fake news. Therefore, she said angrily, "What do you mean what's going on?" Of course she was framed. "Your youngest uncle is the prime minister now. So many people don't like him. This incident happened once before, but I didn't think it would get worse this time and be even more photoshopped." Kai Xingnan said in shock, "This was all photoshopped? I couldn't tell at all." "Of course it was." Kai Songyin glared at her. "Xingnan, you're a lawyer. I'm hiring you as my private lawyer now to sue that hacker." She didn't dare to say that she would sue the original blogger who posted the video because she didn't know if her subordinates had done a clean job and if there was any evidence in their hands. If there wasn't evidence, she would definitely sue the blogger as well. But if there was evidence, Kai Songyin shuddered. In that instant she was filled with regret. Why did she have to think of such a stupid idea? Even if she wanted to mess with Gunyanji, she should have cleared her name first. She could only blame herself for being too conceited and not expecting someone to be eyeing her from behind. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't understand how such a flawless plan had been discovered and used by someone else in advance. "That's not a problem." Kai Xingnan agreed immediately, but she carefully persuaded Kai Songyin, "I will sue the blogger who posted the video as well." "Little auntie, shouldn't this kind of thing be hired by Uncle's Cabinet Ministry of Justice to fight the lawsuit? Think about it, this matter is to discredit the Cabinet Prime Minister and his wife. Shouldn't the Cabinet Ministry of Justice handle it?" Kai Xingnan had her own thoughts. First of all, being a lawyer hired by the Wuxia Empire's Cabinet Ministry of Justice was completely different from being a private lawyer hired by someone. The former could be bragged about on her resume, and the latter obviously didn't carry as much weight as the former. Also, as a lawyer hired by the Cabinet Ministry of Justice, she could only receive legal fees. If she became little auntie's private lawyer just like that, she probably wouldn't receive any money. This was the first update. Today there were 7 updates in a row. Flip back. There's more. You can vote for your monthly votes and recommendation votes now. Chapter 984. Kai Songyin was distraught and waved her hand. "That's fine too. Call the Minister of Justice and tell him that I said that the Prime Minister and I were framed. Ask him to hire you as the Prime Minister's lawyer to represent us in the lawsuit." "Auntie, shouldn't it be better for you or Uncle to do it? Will it work if I do it?" Kai Xingnan was eager to try but also wanted to save face and more protection. Kai Songyin rolled her eyes. "I have something important to discuss with your uncle. Go talk to the Minister of Justice yourself. He used to be your uncle's deputy, so he'll definitely listen." "All right then." Kai Xingnan immediately called the Minister of Justice after receiving the guarantee. Kai Songyin asked Tanguerin to call Tan Dongbang in and handed him the phone. She said with a livid expression, "Dongbang, look at this yourself. I want to see how you clean up the mess you made this time." Tan Dongbang had been drinking outside earlier and was confused when he saw his 2 relatives looking at him strangely. However, Kai Songyin had taken his phone away when he came to eat, so he couldn't watch the news. Now that Kai Songyin had returned the phone to him, he looked down at it. He was so shocked that he almost threw the phone away. What is going on? Who is this blogger? Why is he framing me? I'm going to send someone to arrest him. I'm going to sue him. I want him to go to jail for the rest of his life." Kai Songyin's heart trembled when she heard that. She quickly said, "This blogger was also hacked. What's the point of suing him? Framing you again? He's clearly framing me." Kai Songyin and Tan Dongbang were the only 2 left in the private room, so they didn't avoid each other. They closed the door and argued fiercely. Yes, he's framing you, but he's also slandering me. This video doesn't have a clear image of me, right? Why did it come out again?" Tan Dongbang's face flushed and then paled. He felt terrible. He couldn't think of how he could go to the national television station's Lantern Festival party tomorrow and give a Lantern Festival speech to the entire nation. Kai Songyin leaned against the wall of the private room and looked coldly at Tan Dongbang's grief-stricken expression. She said sternly, "Don't think about who did such a wicked thing. The most important thing now is to delete this video from the internet." Gu Yinran wasn't a big deal. Anyway, after the first porn incident, her white flesh was already stinky. However, Tan Dongbang was different. Even if Kai Songyin's relationship with him had fallen apart, they were still husband and wife. Moreover, Tan Dongbang was the prime minister. The prime minister of a country being seen naked was not something to be proud of. In reality, this crisis was even more troublesome than Tan Dongbang's impeachment. Even if he was impeached, it would still be considered an open fight. As long as he won the lawsuit, Tan Dongbang's reputation and prestige wouldn't be affected in any way. In fact, it would even be a bonus. Because in terms of impeachment procedures, if the other party initiated a second impeachment, the requirements would be much stricter than the first. Kai Songyin was confident that Tan Dongbang wouldn't be impeached a second time. But this time the short video that made Tan Dongbang lose face was like a soft knife cutting through flesh. Kai Songyin felt suffocated just thinking about it. Who was this? So vicious. In a corner of her heart, she felt that Hua Xiaoheng had something to do with this. However, rationally she refused to believe this speculation. Because Hua Xiaoheng was clearly traveling with General Ji in the army, and Kai Songyin knew his daily schedule like the back of her hand. Kai Songyin had a lot of connections in the media world. Although the news media that followed the army this time was part of the military, they were all in the media industry, so they were inextricably linked to each other. Therefore, Kai Songyin knew that Hua Xiaoheng didn't have a single second to do something like this. During these 14 days, Hua Xiaoheng was like General Ji. He was followed by the news media almost from every angle. It was also because of this reason that Kai Songyin had the guts to promote Hua Xiaoheng on the internet. She wanted him to have a taste of being an internet celebrity, and then use a short article to knock him down. Then she would get someone to help Hua Xiaoheng reclaim his reputation. And she would give all the credit to Tan Guiren. She would let Hua Xiaoheng know that she only helped him because Tan Guiren wholeheartedly cared for him. After experiencing the process of falling from the peak to rock bottom, and then rising from rock bottom to the peak, Hua Xiaoheng's mindset would definitely change. He would clearly realize that Tan Guiren was the woman most compatible with him in terms of personal qualities and family background. Unfortunately, before she could carry out her wishful thinking, she had already fallen into a completely passive and hopeless situation. Now it looked like it wasn't Hua Xiaoheng who was about to fall from the peak to rock bottom, but her family. Kai Songyin's eyes were red as she glared at Tan Dongbang. "Hurry up and make the call. I'll call the head of the Ministry of Information right now and have him order Weibo to be deleted." Tan Dongbang was reminded by Kai Songyin, and he frantically searched for the number of the head of the Ministry of Information from his phone. He called, and the person was also watching the news and waiting for Tan Dongbang's orders. "Hurry up and order Weibo to delete the original video. Also, delete it from the entire internet. Don't miss anything on your cloud drive or email." Tan Dongbang held his phone with one hand and stood in the small room with the other hand on his hip. He was so angry that his neck was red. "What? Weibo can't be deleted. Then what should we do?" When Tan Dongbang heard that Weibo had a technical malfunction and couldn't delete or block the short video, it was the first time he felt like he was in big trouble. This was a helplessness he hadn't felt even during his impeachment. Who was behind this? Were they trying to force him to his death? Kai Songyin immediately took the phone from Tan Dongbang's hand and said in a low voice, "Hurry up and give an order to Weibo. If they don't think of a solution in 5 minutes, they can forget about getting their internet license next year." If they couldn't get their internet license approved by the state, then Weibo would have to shut down. This was a truly ruthless move. The head of the Ministry of Information immediately relayed this request to Weibo's management and gave an order. "If you don't solve this problem in 5 minutes, then wait for bankruptcy and liquidation." Only then did Weibo's management panic. After an emergency call with the major shareholder, they found the technical director of Weibo and asked him, "How much longer do you need to solve this problem?" "You still have 3 minutes. When the technical director heard that Weibo would have to shut down immediately if they couldn't solve this problem, he panicked and said, "It's not that there's no way, but I'm afraid there will be a huge loss." What loss could be greater than shutting down the company? "Hurry up and tell me." Weibo's CEO was furious. He waved his fist and wanted to punch the technical director in the face. That means shutting down all the servers and restarting them with the backup data from a few days ago. The technical director coughed with difficulty. But this will cause Weibo to face a huge loss of data, and there might even be legal problems. They didn't know what kind of person their Weibo had provoked in the past year, but they kept being hacked and restarted the backup data twice already. Whatever, as long as it works, we can talk about the future in the future. Weibo's CEO waved his hand. Hurry up and do it. Shut down all the servers and restart them with the backup data from a few days ago. Weibo's CEO made the decision, and the technical director immediately informed Weibo's server managers around the world to immediately shut down all the servers. This was going to be interesting. Weibo claimed to have hundreds of millions of users, and there were more than 100 million active users every day. Therefore, Weibo shut down all the servers around the world without any warning. The financial loss was a small matter, but the key was that it would have a very negative impact on the users. Weibo also had its own competitors. Taking advantage of this opportunity, several competitors quickly attracted new users and offered all kinds of benefits to steal many of Weibo's users. But no matter what, the video of the short film was finally deleted. Then the IT department took action and deleted all the relevant links and content from the entire internet. Cloud computing, email, and all the major forum website servers were all cleaned up. But in the end it was too slow. By the time they realized what was going on and made the decision to shut down all the servers, the 5-minute short movie had already spread across the world at lightning speed. Even foreign users, including foreign intelligence agencies, received a copy of the video. It was a high-definition video, and Gu Yanran had a good figure and was beautiful. She was more eye-catching than many of the female celebrities in Japan. And the name Gu Ninji gave to Gu Yanran was Kasahara Naoko. When everyone saw this name, they all praised the rising star of the Japanese video industry. And after the foreign intelligence agencies analyzed the video, they discovered that Mrs. Tan's image was edited, but Prime Minister Tan's image was the real thing. In other words, the newly elected Prime Minister of the Wuxia Empire had performed an intense video for the people of the world. This was going to be a big deal. Although the 5-minute video was deleted because Weibo shut down all the servers around the world, some people still had a backup on their personal computers. When the ordinary Wuxia citizens discovered that the woman was actually called Kasahara Naoko, and was obviously Japanese, their anger erupted like a volcano. It was one thing for the dignified prime minister of a country to be recorded in such an indecent video, but it was also with a Japanese woman. Soon, on Chindu's search engine, the search volume for Kasahara Naoko skyrocketed. Gu Ninji had already prepared the Chindu encyclopedia information on Kasahara Naoko for anyone to search. As information about the Kasahara family surfaced one by one, and people who were interested could even compare it with other historical information, they suddenly discovered that Kasahara Naoko's great-grandfather was actually a colonel in Japan's infamous numerical unit back then. Prime Minister Tan actually had a relationship with such a woman, and his wife was actually filming from the side. So it was definitely not someone else framing him. It was the second update, and the first update of the 100,000 Chidian coins awarded to Assistant Gio arrived. Chapter 985. Impulsive netizens had long been used to Weibo solving cases and cloud sentencing. When Weibo's server was restored, the impatient netizens realized that the data had returned to a few days ago. There was no data in between, which made them even angrier. Everyone vented their anger on Prime Minister Tan and his family. The active Weibo users who had been holding back for the whole night started to dig up information on the various bloggers related to this incident. Gu Ninji didn't need to do anything else. The truth would be revealed by the netizens step by step. Oh my god. See what I found. The fans of this blogger are almost all paid posters. Screenshots as proof, these accounts only follow the blogger and the official Weibo account of the First Lady's company. Could it be that someone is deliberately trying to slander Prime Minister Tan? Black my ass. Let me show you where these fake reviewers belong to. They are all from this company. See? Mrs. Tan's company. Why would Mrs. Tan defame her own husband? He even let himself out. You have to ask Mrs. Tan. As a result, Kai Songyin's Weibo account gained a few million followers within a few hours. Her most recent Weibo post was almost bombarded with questions. Everyone was asking her why she didn't just divorce her husband if she hated him so much. By doing such a thing, her husband's political future was obviously over. At this time, in the private room of the restaurant where the Kai family and the Tan family were about to eat together, everyone was like a statue. No one spoke and no one moved. Kai Songyin and Tan Dongbang were talking in the private room and hadn't come out for a long time. Tan Guirin and Kai Xingnan followed the latest developments online. When they saw that Prime Minister Tan's short film had been promoted and marketed by Kai Songyin's Internet Water Army, they were all flabbergasted and almost speechless. Kai Xingnan was the first to react. What the hell was going on? Just a moment ago, Little Ant had indignantly said that the video was fake and that someone was trying to set them up. She had even asked her to be the Prime Minister's lawyer hired by the Ministry of Justice to fight the case. But in the blink of an eye, how did it become her who was setting up her uncle? So what the hell was she going to sue for? Help Uncle sue Auntie? It took about an hour and a half for Weibo to shut down all the servers around the world and restart the backup data. During that 1.5 hours, Tan Dongbang and Kai Songyin stayed in the private room of the restaurant and didn't come out. Looking at the Weibo status that appeared on the phone, she looked at the Weibo posts that netizens dug out one by one. In the end, all of them pointed to Kai Songyin's Internet Water Army company. It's you? Tan Dongbang couldn't contain his anger and raised his hand to slap Kai Songyin. You're too vicious. How dare you use such a method to harm me? Kai Songyin covered her face in disbelief. You're saying I hurt you? Tan Dongbang, do you have a brain? What do I get out of harming you? Haven't you been holding a grudge because of what happened between me and Gu Yanran? I was still wondering why you would be so kind as to forgive me in the end, but it turns out that you were waiting for this. Do you want me to never be able to make a comeback? Tan Dongbang felt that he couldn't live with Kai Songyin anymore. Men were like this. Once they cheated, their feelings would never be as pure as before. Without trust in a relationship, a husband and wife who had helped each other through thick and thin would become estranged. Kai Songyin truly felt disheartened, but she couldn't tell him the truth. After all, she was the one who came up with the plan to force Gu Nianji to back off and beat Hua Xiaoheng. Tan Dongbang really didn't know about it. Of course, now that things had developed to this point, the short article that she had suggested had never appeared. She also wouldn't drag it out and cause more trouble for herself. If I wanted to hold a grudge against you, all I had to do was stand by and watch when you were impeached. Why would I need to do this? Didn't you see that even I was in your video? If I was the one who filmed it, why would I appear in the video? Are you thinking with your lower body? Kai Songyin didn't back down and rushed over to slap Tan Dongbang. I've lived so long and even my parents haven't touched a single finger on me. Tan Dongbang, how dare you hit me? Tan Dongbang also felt a bit guilty after hitting Kai Songyin. Now that she had hit him back, it could be considered to have been cancelled out. He covered his face and sneered. If it wasn't like that, how could you clear your name? Kai Songyin, I really underestimated you. That's right, you're the queen of the media, the CEO, and you control half the entertainment industry. You can crush someone with a flick of your finger. But I never thought that you would disregard your relationship as a married couple and hit me so ruthlessly. Tan Dongbang, look at your own conscience and then look at your own brain. Don't tell me you're saying something like that because the water in your brain flowed into your heart and all of it flowed out. Kai Songyin glared at Tan Dongbang. Right now I'm being framed. You still don't believe me? I've already asked Xingnan to make preparations. We're going to find the mastermind and sue him to death. Now isn't the time for us to have a falling out. Please control your pettiness and get through this with me. This was indeed the correct way to handle the situation. No matter how angry Tan Dongbang was, he had to suppress it. Fine, let's go home first and find someone to investigate this matter. Then we'll file a lawsuit. Tan Dongbang was no longer hysterical. He touched his gloomy face and walked out of the small single room. Kai Songyin also followed him out. As soon as the couple left the private room, they immediately put on calm smiles and changed their expressions very quickly. Mommy? Daddy? Are you okay? Tan Guirin came up to them worriedly. How did this happen? Is what the internet said true? Of course it's false. Your daddy and I were framed. Someone wants to mess with us, Kai Songyin said calmly. Don't be afraid. We'll take care of this. Standing in front of the Kais and Tans, Kai Songyin assured everyone, today's incident was purely an accident. We're going back to investigate this matter now. Please help yourselves to dinner. We'll be leaving first. Kai Songyin led Tan Guirin and Kai Xingnan out. Tan Dongbang was the prime minister. When he went out, even if it was a family gathering, there would be people from the National Secret Service protecting them. However, as soon as they walked out of the restaurant, they were suddenly surrounded by reporters who rushed in from outside. All sorts of cameras and cell phones were pointed in their direction, and microphones of all sizes with recording functions were extended in front of them. Prime Minister Tan, may I ask what's going on with the short video that's spreading like wildfire on Weibo today? Mrs. Tan, I heard that your company was responsible for promoting those links. What's the meaning of this? Under the pitch-black night sky and the dim yellow street lights next to the trees on the side of the road, the cameras in the reporters' hands were highlighted. As soon as Tan Dongbang saw the reporters, his campaign style came out. He stood ramrod straight and said politely, I already know about today's incident, and I'm about to rush back to the cabinet for a meeting. I promise everyone that I will definitely find the instigator of this incident and bring him to justice. As soon as the reporters heard that there was hope, they immediately asked, Prime Minister Tan, are you saying that someone framed you? But that video has been leaked before, and you didn't question the authenticity of the video. Of course he didn't question it because Tan Dongbang didn't appear in the video at that time. Why would he deny it? Would he get himself into trouble? Tan Dongbang cursed the reporter who asked this question for being an idiot in his heart as he smiled and got into his bulletproof car. The Secret Service's security guards immediately separated the reporters. Everyone move aside and let Prime Minister Tan's car leave. Kai Songyin didn't say anything from beginning to end as she followed Tan Dongbang into the car. Tan Guirin wore large sunglasses and lowered her head as she got into Tan Dongbang's Prime Minister's car with Kai Xingnan. The car quickly drove away, leaving the bustling reporters behind. Tan Guirin looked back and took off her sunglasses. She rubbed her eyes and sighed. Mommy, who's going so far? They're so evil. We must sue them. Kai Xingnan burst into laughter and rubbed Tan Guirin's head. Cousin, you're so well protected by Auntie. What is it? Did I say something wrong? This incident isn't that simple. Kai Xingnan stopped smiling. From the information online, we don't even know who our opponent is. How can we sue them? Sue who? Their opponent? Isn't it the blogger who uploaded the video? Tan Guirin asked in confusion. Kai Songyin quickly said, My assistant has already gone to investigate. The blogger said that his account was hacked by a hacker. Mommy, even you don't know who set us up? Tan Guirin clenched her fists. These people are too much. We can't let them get away with it. Tan Guirin wanted to vomit just thinking about that disgusting video. Luckily, her cousin had covered half of her phone at the time, so she hadn't seen her father clearly. She had only seen Gu Yinran's fair skin. In Tan Guirin's heart, her mother, Kai Songyin, was omnipotent. Even when her father was impeached by the Senate, she had helped him through it. This time would be no exception. Kai Songyin only wanted to cry. Where was she supposed to find the mastermind at this time? Kai Xingnan knew more about the ways of the world than Tan Guirin. She took out her phone and said to Kai Songyin, Auntie, there must be a computer expert involved in this incident. We should first find a computer expert to look for clues. Yes. A computer expert. We need to find a computer expert to help us. Tan Dongbang nodded vigorously. Xingnan, do you know anyone in this field? There must be a computer expert in the cabinet's information department. Kai Xingnan subtly reminded Kai Songyin. Why don't we have Uncle talk to the director of the information department again? Kai Songyin agreed. That's a good suggestion. Dongbang, go and get a few computer experts from the IT department. Get them to check it out and see what's going on. Tan Dongbang immediately called the director of the information department again. However, the director of the information department immediately replied, Prime Minister Tan, it's not that I don't want to help, but Weibo just restarted the backup data and used the data from a few days ago. Even if a computer expert went to investigate today, they wouldn't be able to find any information. It was the third update, and the second update of the 100,000 Chidian dollars awarded to Assistant Jiao arrived. Chapter 986. Tan Dongbang's heart sank. Really? That can't be? There's no other data on Weibo? Kai Songyin's heart skipped a beat, and her tense expression relaxed. If Weibo's server was rebooted using the data from a few days ago, then would the private messages they exchanged with the blogger also disappear? Then there wouldn't be any evidence left, right? Kai Songyin carefully calculated the possibilities in her mind. Tan Dongbang was also talking to the head of the IT department about borrowing a computer expert. Tan Guirin propped up her head with her hand and looked out the window silently. She sighed softly. Her home was a mess, and she wished so much that a strong man would come down from the sky and save her from this disaster. Where was her hero? While the three Tans were having their own thoughts, Kai Xingnan was also looking for a solution. She didn't know much about computers and she didn't trust the people in the IT department. Therefore, she found an American computer expert she was familiar with and sent him an email, hoping he could help evaluate the situation. The American computer expert happened to hear about this incident and watched the entire process. He even downloaded a short movie. Now that he saw Kai Xingnan's email asking about him, the American computer expert called over the internet and praised the person who did this. Julie, this person is a genius. A 100% genius. He's so amazing. Just making Weibo unable to delete or block the video is not something a normal computer expert can do. I never knew there was such a computer expert in the Wuxia Empire. Julie, did you know? I only admired one computer genius before, and his name is Pink Piggy. He suddenly appeared last year and wiped out the German Federal Intelligence Agency. Now, I have a second person I admire. I want to call him Dark Angel. What the hell was Pink Piggy? Dark Angel? Childish. Kai Xingnan pouted and began chatting with this person. Is this very difficult? Of course. Theoretically, as long as it's content on my server, the system admin has full authority. It can delete, change, or block it as it pleases. There shouldn't be any problems. But the person who uploaded the video changed the system admin's authority. In other words, he added a restriction to the Weibo system admin so it can't delete or block this specific file. Kai Xingnan was as confused as a Vajra. She stared at the dark night sky and thought for a while before continuing, can't the system admin's authority be changed? Theoretically, no. Only other accounts can be restricted. Think about it, what is a system admin? It means that the system is the master and can't be changed. But this person did it. I'm very interested in how he did it. The computer expert from the United States kept on expressing her admiration for the person who uploaded the video, which made Kai Xingnan feel very uncomfortable. Hehe, so there's such a powerful hacker. No wonder you think so highly of him. Don't you even know how he did it? Kai Xingnan said deliberately, trying to provoke the American computer expert. The American computer expert fell for it and said excitedly, I'm also looking at Weibo's system. The security measures of the original Weibo blogger's account are really bad. I easily hacked into his account and took a look at his account. I realized that even his private messages were deleted. Looks like the rebooting of Weibo's data has greatly affected this blogger. The computer expert's private messages were all deleted? Did the original blogger delete all his private messages? Cannot be restored? Kai Xingnan asked casually as she wrote down all the important points in her electronic memo. Kai Songyin heard it from the front row and turned to ask quietly, how do you know the computer expert's private messages were all deleted? Kai Xingnan gestured for her to calm down. She then said to the American computer expert, got it? Thank you. I'm on my way. Okay. She had originally wanted to invite this American computer expert to be her technical consultant. Just like that, when she went to court and saw the hacker who uploaded the video, Kai Xingnan was worried that this American computer expert would immediately change sides and kneel at the feet of that person. After ending the call with the American computer expert, Kai Xingnan nodded to Kai Songyin. It was indeed deleted. The person I was talking to is very good. He just accessed the computer expert's Weibo account and looked through it. Tan Guirin listened quietly for a while and suddenly whispered, I heard from the art troupe that Major General Hua's department has a lot of computer experts. Why don't we ask Major General Hua to check? Really? Major General Hua's department has computer experts? Even better than the computer experts in the information department? Kai Xingnan immediately expressed her interest and wanted to hold Tan Guirin's hand to ask. Kai Songyin coughed lightly to stop Tan Guirin. Little darling, we'll find a computer expert. As for Major General Hua, they're a military organization. It's best not to trouble them with things related to the cabinet. Kai Xingnan was a bit disappointed. How could Kai Songyin give up such a good opportunity to get close to him? She looked Kai Songyin up and down and actually saw a trace of panic in her eyes that she didn't manage to hide in time. What was the reason? Kai Xingnan quietly looked away and looked at her phone. She picked it up and sent an email to her father. Father should know about what happened in the Wuxia Empire that night, right? Unfortunately, they couldn't take the first step. How could they find the hacker? Kai Xingnan's father, Kai Sumin, had also paid attention to this matter. Because Tan Dongbang was his brother-in-law, he was more concerned about it than others. Kai Sumin immediately called when he saw Kai Xingnan's email. Xingnan, where's your auntie? Kai Sumin asked over the phone. Kai Xingnan looked at Kai Songyin in the front row. She's here. Do you want to talk to Auntie? Kai Sumin sat in front of his desk and looked at the uproar online. He nodded with a headache. Give her the phone. Kai Xingnan quickly said, Auntie, it's my father. Kai Songyin was ecstatic. It's your father? She quickly took the phone and immediately said, Big brother. You finally called back. Kai Xingnan's father, Kai Sumin, was Kai Songyin's biological brother. The siblings had been very close since they were young. Kai Sumin was one of the most famous Wuxia lawyers in the United States. He only asked a few questions and could tell something was wrong from Kai Songyin's reaction. Songyin, tell me the truth. Does this matter have anything to do with you? Kai Sumin asked slowly. Kai Songyin choked and quickly glanced at Tan Dongbang. She tried her best to maintain her calm posture. This matter is very complicated. The blogger who uploaded the video keeps claiming that his account was hacked and that it has nothing to do with him. Nothing to do with him? If he says it's fine, then it's fine? The truth is that the video was uploaded from his account, and the person who forwarded it was also his fan. What reason does he have to say that it wasn't him and you just believe him? Kai Sumin hit the nail on the head and pointed out Kai Songyin's unspeakable secret. Kai Songyin couldn't let Tan Dongbang know the truth, nor did she want Tan Guiran to know, so she took the blame herself. Big brother, we've already investigated that blogger. He's just a lousy blogger with no background at all. How could he have done this? What is he after? Kai Songyin still expressed her belief in the original blogger. What is he after? Of course it's for money. Do you think he's after ideals or interests? Kai Sumin was even more certain that this matter had something to do with his younger sister. However, he didn't know why she was so unlucky to be the victim of this incident. Big brother, I don't know what to do either because he insists that it was a hacker. There's nothing we can do. Kai Songyin rejected him tactfully. Kai Sumin raised his voice. You don't know what to do? There's nothing we can do? Then you can sue him directly. In a situation like this, he should be the one to produce proof to prove that he was hacked. We shouldn't just listen to him and believe that it was a hacker. Songyin, don't tell me you don't even understand that? Kai Songyin's heart trembled when she heard that. She wanted to say something but stopped herself. Out of the corner of her eye, she already saw Tan Dongbang looking over. She quickly adjusted the expression on her face and continued speaking mysteriously. I was so scared just now that I really didn't think about it. However, if Big Brother thinks this is feasible, how about we hold a video conference to discuss it in detail when we get home? Kai Sumin was silent for a while. Is it inconvenient for you to talk now? We're in the car. We're about to go back to the Prime Minister's official residence, Kai Songyin said with a smile. Her expression had already returned to normal. Tan Dongbang had been secretly observing Kai Songyin from the side. He finally sighed in relief when he saw that she wasn't uncomfortable at all. As long as Kai Songyin wasn't trying to mess with him, Tan Dongbang believed that he would be fine. Tan Dongbang was just like his daughter, Tan Guiran. He trusted Kai Songyin's abilities very much. However, only Kai Songyin knew that this time she had kicked an iron plate. There was an uncontrollable panic in her heart. It was as if all these years of good luck had finally been used up in that moment. She hung up and returned the phone to Kai Xingnan. Kai Songyin tilted her head and leaned against the car window in silent contemplation. If they were sure that the original blogger didn't have any evidence and didn't have anything to use against them, perhaps they could choose to directly sue the original blogger, and the original blogger would definitely say that they wanted him to defame Gun Yanji and Hua Xiaoheng and that he had nothing to do with the video. Then she could tell Hua Xiaoheng about the news and see how he would react. That way, public opinion would definitely be created, and their goal of defaming Gun Yanji would still be achieved. As for Hua Xiaoheng, they could also take the opportunity to see his reaction and see if he would save Gun Yanji or watch from the sidelines and protect himself. This was the fourth update. It was delivered to the president of Momo Moshi. Chapter 987. Kai Songyin could also use this opportunity to assess Hua Xiaoheng's feelings for Gun Yanji from his subsequent actions. Otherwise, his daughter's unrequited love might be for naught. The more Kai Songyin thought about it, the more she felt that this was a great idea. It was like killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Not only would they be able to save Tan Dongbang from danger, but they would also be able to drag Gun Yanji down with them. Hua Xiaoheng would also be involved, so their losses would not be too great. By the time they returned to the Prime Minister's official residence, Kai Songyin had already thought through everything. When she video called Kai Sumin, Kai Songyin was alone in the study and told him the truth. She explained the entire sequence of events and the freak combination of circumstances. Kai Sumin was so angry on the other side of the ocean that his veins were about to explode. Songyin, how could you think of such a lousy move that harms others without benefiting yourself? If they weren't separated by the entire Pacific Ocean, Kai Sumin would have picked up a stick and viciously beat Kai Songyin. What an idiot. What's so good about Huo Xiaoheng? Is it worth it for you to take such a huge risk? Kai Susamin was exasperated that Kai Susamin didn't live up to his expectations and reprimanded Kai Songyin again and again. Kai Songyin didn't retort. She just quietly waited for Kai Sumin to finish scolding before saying quietly, "If we're talking about talent, little darling's taste isn't bad. If Huo Xiaoheng can be my son-in-law, even if Dongbang doesn't become the prime minister in the future, it would be enough for our family to have a son-in-law. Even if he's so good, why does he have to use such a stupid method?" Kai Sumin looked down on idiots the most. They could be bad, they could be poisonous, they could be despicable, but they couldn't be stupid. Do you think I want to? Kai Songyin wasn't happy either. Your niece likes him wholeheartedly, but coincidentally, Huo Xiaoheng also has an ex-girlfriend who's procrastinating. Although they said they broke up, I see that the two of them are still in love. If my daughter marries him, she'll be disgusted by that woman for the rest of her life. Therefore, she acted as the bad guy and helped her daughter get rid of this disaster first. Kai Sumin furrowed his brows. Then you can have someone write that kind of article to defame her? Aren't you afraid of arousing a man's desire to protect her and making it harder for him to let her go? Kai Songyin froze. What did you say? Kai Sumin rubbed his temples with a headache. Songyin, you're not stupid. You just don't understand how men think. It's only because Dongbang was your childhood sweetheart and gave in to you that you think you can do whatever you want. Big brother, who are you siding with? Kai Songyin stood up angrily. Tan Dongbang cheated on his wife and fooled around with another woman. I still can't forgive him. What man's mind? It's all bullshit. All right. Little sister, don't be agitated. Of course, big brother will help you and stand on your side. Kai Sumin saw that Kai Songyin was anxious, so he used the nickname he used when they were young to coax her. Kai Songyin hadn't heard her brother coax her like this in a long time, and her eyes couldn't help turning red. Ever since she had married Tan Dongbang, she, the beloved youngest daughter of the family, had become the backbone of the Tan family and shouldered the family's burden. It wasn't that it wasn't hard, it wasn't that it wasn't sad. However, she didn't have a way out. Tan Dongbang was the man she had cried about marrying all those years ago, and the Kai family had all agreed to it. Only her eldest brother, Kai Sumin, had disagreed. He said that Tan Dongbang was petty and solicitous. He only did superficial work, but he didn't take responsibility. He was afraid that she would have a harder time in the future. However, Kai Songyin felt that she had the support of the Tan and Kai families, so how hard could it be? Moreover, she was willing to be a strong woman and run her own company so that the business would flourish. However, in the middle of the night, when she felt tired, she still hoped to have a pair of strong arms to rely on instead of being someone else's support. This was also why she spoiled her daughter, Tan Gurin, and wanted to fulfill her wish of marrying Huo Xiaoheng. Kai Songyin felt that Huo Xiaoheng was the kind of man that women could rely on for a lifetime. She would only be at ease if her daughter married him. Because her daughter definitely wasn't someone who could rely on herself to support a family. Only Huo Xiaoheng's status and ability could allow her daughter to continue living a pampered and spoiled life. She spoiled her daughter into a naive and innocent girl because she didn't want her daughter to be like her and struggle to support a family in the future and become someone else's backbone. Big brother. I was wrong. Kai Songyin choked up as she admitted defeat. Help me? Kai Sumin's heart also softened. I know. Of course I will help you. You just have to tell Big Brother the truth and Big Brother will help you think of a solution. Kai Songyin nodded profusely and immediately explained her previous plans in detail. Kai Sumin listened calmly and felt that it was rather troublesome because Kai Songyin's plan was actually quite meticulous and effective. Even if he made the plan himself, he wouldn't be much older than this. However, such a bold and imaginative plan had kicked an iron plate and was even used by someone to turn the tables on him. The person behind this was truly too terrifying. Kai Sumin had been a lawyer for over 30 years, yet he had never seen such a cunning criminal that was practically impossible to find. At this time he completely forgot that his sister, Kai Songyin, was the instigator of the entire case. It was only because she failed that she became a victim. Kai Songyin saw that Kai Sumin didn't speak for a long time and was a bit flustered. she said uneasily. Big brother, can you not tell Shengnan some things? Because it was quite embarrassing, she couldn't lose her dignity as an elder in front of Kai Shengnan. Kai Sumin nodded. I know. This case is rather complicated. I plan to personally return to the Wuxia Empire and guide Shengnan in this lawsuit. I'm telling you, don't be soft-hearted. This original blogger can't produce evidence that it's related to you, so you must sue him. In order to clear your name and Dongbang's name for your position, this blogger must be the scapegoat. Big brother wants to return to the Wuxia Empire. That's great. Kai Songyin truly sighed in relief. I'll listen to you. I'll sue whoever you say I want to sue, and I'll fight the lawsuit however you say I want to. She knew that even if Kai Sumin returned to the Wuxia Empire, he wouldn't personally help her with the lawsuit because he was now an American citizen and needed to avoid arousing suspicion. However, Kai Shengnan was different. She was still a Wuxia Empire citizen and could completely help them with the lawsuit. And Kai Sumin could guide Kai Shengnan behind the scenes. With Kai Sumin they would definitely be able to overcome this crisis. It was 1 o'clock in the morning on the 15th day of the lunar calendar. Gunyenji was still awake as she laid on the bed with her phone in hand. She admired the bloody storm she had single-handedly caused. She casually used an anonymous account to start a petition on Weibo and tagged the official accounts of the Senate, Cabinet, and military. Hashtag Prime Minister Tan Dongbang who had an affair with a Japanese spy must step down. Hashtag although it was already late at night, there were still many active people on Weibo. As soon as the petition was started, it immediately received countless responses from netizens. Some people even reposted the petition link to major forums outside of Weibo. The moderator pinned it to make it easier for people to click on the link and vote. Although the petition had no legal effect, it was the same as what Kai Songyin liked to do. It was also public opinion. The Prime Minister was elected, so he couldn't ignore public opinion. Also, Gunyenji had restored the original version of the video and uploaded it online. How could Tan Dongbang continue to be Prime Minister like that? If Tan Dongbang didn't admit his mistake and resign, Gunyenji didn't mind sending him on his way and forcing him to step down. During the last impeachment case, Gunyenji held back and didn't make a move because she felt that although she had disagreements with the Tans, it hadn't reached the level of a deep hatred. As long as she achieved her goal of dealing with Gu Yanran, and Tan Dongbang had already become the Prime Minister who was impeached as soon as he took office, there was no need to be ruthless. It was enough to teach him a lesson. She didn't expect that in a moment of soft-heartedness, Tan Dongbang, Kai Songyin, and Tan Guiran would actually think otherwise. To be honest, Gunyenji had been suppressing her anger ever since she saw Hua Xiaoheng take Tan Guiran off the plane with Tan Dongbang, Kai Songyin, and Tan Guiran's family. They had used their high and mighty positions to use all sorts of methods to destroy her love, destroy her faith, and now they wanted to erase her personality and dignity. A warrior could be killed but not humiliated. This time they had touched her bottom line, and Gunyenji knew she had nowhere to retreat. She had the courage and valiance that had been cultivated from following Hua Xiaoheng for so many years. This was the quality that a qualified soldier should have. She had spent her entire adolescence with these iron-blooded soldiers, so it was inevitable that she would be subtly influenced by them. She thought that if Kai Songyin and Tan Dongbang still refused to admit their mistakes and resign, and still wanted to fight a lawsuit to create public opinion, she would definitely accompany them to the end this time. Scrolling through her phone, Gunyenji saw that the number of votes for her petition was steadily increasing. She yawned and placed her phone next to her pillow, planning to sleep. At that moment, Hua Xiaoheng's private car had just stopped in front of his official residence. "Hello, Chief." The guards at the entrance of the official residence immediately saluted Hua Xiaoheng as he got out of the car. Hua Xiaoheng nodded. "Thank you for your hard work." He strolled into his official residence. He had been gone for half a month. Although he had often gone on missions in the past, he had never been as eager to return as he was now. Hua Xiaoheng walked into the entryway and looked at the brightly lit foyer. He passed through the living room and walked towards the spiral staircase. Gunyenji and his room were on the second floor. He stood in front of Gunyenji's door for a while and saw that the lights inside had already dimmed. He decided to go back to take a shower and change his clothes before visiting her. He had been at the grassroots level for more than 10 days. Although he showered and changed his clothes every day, he always felt travel-worn after such a long journey. He quickly took a shower in the bathroom and came out. Hua Xiaoheng changed into a clean long black t-shirt and camouflage military pants before going to Gunyenji's suite. There was always a dim yellow night light in her bedroom. Xiaoheng came to stand in front of her bed and didn't say anything when Gu Nianji suddenly opened her eyes. Xiaoheng thought she was awake, but she only glanced at him. Her gaze was unfocused as she mumbled, "I'm dreaming again." Then she turned over and went back to sleep. Xiaoheng was speechless. His hard and cold heart suddenly softened to an unbelievable degree. It was the fifth update for the alliance leader of Yunhan Yuqin. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.